Welcome to the Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC 323, Dvalishvili versus Jan 2. I'm your host, Ben Duffy of Sherdog.com, and back with me, as usual, is Keith Schillen, the executive producer of the Sherdog Radio Network. Keith, we had a week off, no UFC. We had U.S. Thanksgiving. I know that you probably celebrate multiple Thanksgivings in your Canadian-American home, but we're back. Feels good to be back. Good to talk to you again. How was the time off?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, first of all, what the hell, Canadians? Like, having your own Thanksgiving? Like, listen, you don't have some pilgrims, sharing a meal with the Native Americans and all this stuff. Like, come on. I don't know what the Canadians did up there, but maybe it's like the English people sharing meal with the French people. Like that would be like a Thanksgiving. Yeah, I had a good Thanksgiving. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. I hope all our listeners, if they, if they're in America and they celebrated Thanksgiving, I hope they had a good Thanksgiving. But yeah, man, I'm always excited when we have a big pay-per-view. And it's our last pay-per-view ever. I've been calling for UFC to get up from pay-per-views. God knows, I don't know how long, but dude, I'm glad it's finally happened. Now, it might not be, when I say the last, it might be last for now. But
right. We'll see.
Hopefully it's the last.
But I mean, this is absolutely the end of an era. Like,
end of an era, yes.
Even if the UFC decides quickly, okay, this isn't working, we need to go back to pay-per-views, that's not going to happen until well into next year, because they're going to.
They moved the time up too. Not this one, but in January, they moved the time up till 9 o'clock for the main card to start. So, that's great.
I'm so happy about that.
I mean, I'd still rather have it like 7 or 8 o'clock, but okay. We're making baby steps.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want it earlier, move west.
Yeah.
So this is the last pay-per-view, if not of the pay-per-view era, at least of the pay-per-view on ESPN era. UFC 323, 14 fights, 2 title fights. Give me your overall thoughts on this card, and then I'll have sort of a special UFC 323 question for you.
I think it's good. It's a I give it like a B+ for an event. What sells it for me is the deepness. Like, there's not a fight on the card where I'm like, okay, this is what I'm not interested with. There's a lot of fights that there's a lot of divisional relevance afterwards that you can talk about, and prospects and different people like that. So it's not an A. It's like if I go over to my friend's house, and I don't know if this analogy is going to work, but I'll go with it. If you invite me over to, like, all right, you invited me over to watch the UFC, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to have a bunch of food, and I show up, and it's like, you got some pizza, you got some wings, you got some, nachos, and I'm like, dude, this is a good spread. Like, all right, I'm happy. Like, but I'm not going to, like, have conversation, be like, oh, do you remember that time when Jimmy invited me over and dude, he went all out on the food? Like, yeah, dude, he had a good sports night food. Mm-hmm. Now, if I went over and you had prime rib and you had steamers and you had oysters and you had lobster tails and I might text you like, yeah, what's going on right now? I might text my wife like, hey, go to Jimmy's house. Like, we're feasting. That's the big cards. That's the UFC 300. Mm-hmm. What is keeping this a B+ to me is I'm not sold on the main event. Not in the sense like it's not a good fight or anything. It's just I've seen them fight recently. Mm-hmm. So it's like a sequel. It's like but it's like a sequel to like I remember when I watched The Lord of the Rings, the first one in a movie, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait for the second one. Yeah. This is like Men in Black 2. Like, okay, fine.
It's not Godfather 2.
Yeah, it's not Godfather 2. Like, I'm super excited to find out. Like, okay, cool.
Right. You kind of are leading into the other question I was going to ask. Obviously, there are 2 title fights at the top of this card, the 2 lightest men's divisions in the UFC, Merab Dvalishvili versus Petr Yan in the main event, Alexandre Pantoja against Josh Van in the co-main. Probably the biggest story on the front page of every MMA news website right now is, or at least in the forums of every major MMA website, is people going berserk over the interim lightweight title fight at UFC 324 between Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett.
Yeah, right for the
Arman Sarukian is left out in the cold, even though,
sure.
I mean,
I
he
don't
is
wanna
by
go
the
too
eyeball
far.
test clearly
Yeah,
the best guy in the division other than Topuria.
sure. I don't want to go too far to rant on like how bad that is. I mean, everyone's done it.
Sure.
And we have like 14 fights to do, so this is already long enough. But what I will say is, it just like there's no need for an interim title, and I 100% believe believe the same thing that Errol Owani's saying about why isn't Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes just headlining it? That is one of the greatest female fights of all time.
Yep.
But anyways, but I don't want to go too far.
Yeah,
And
we'll be talking about that one in like 3 weeks. So yeah,
to me, even worse than that is the next Volkanovski Diego Lopez. Why he's getting an automatic rematch? Why Volkanovski's defending the belt against the guy he just beat and beat him convincingly? Like that one is the real head shaker.
And obviously, we will get to those when we get to them.
Head scratcher, not shaker.
It's both. My question to you, in the wake of what we're talking about here, is: are these the right matchups for title fights in December 2025 in these divisions? Are the right people the challengers in these divisions? Like,
well, what happens when the problem is you have two champions who've been on long runs and they've kind of cleaned out the divisions. So it's hard to you get this to happen when you have like George St. Pierre and Anderson Silva when they keep defending and they're wiping the belt out, and all of a sudden you get those matchups against Talos Leitas and no one's really excited about, and it's just like, yeah, he keeps winning and he's put himself in that situation. Josh Van, I'm very excited about that matchup. I think he's definitely the number one deserving guy. I think he's the number one threat too. Like I think if I had to pick one guy in the division to beat Pantoja, I'm not making a prediction, but if I like my life is in the line, I'm gonna make a pick. I might take Van. Jan, I'm okay with him getting the shot. Yeah, he's won 3 fights in a row. He looked great. The other thing is Merab is like, well, Merab beat Sandhagen, Merab beat Umar. He's beaten O'Malley twice, and it's like he's the highest ranked guy. And then when you look and other guys who've been lower in the division kind of knocked each other off. The only guy that I think can make an argument, and I hate to say this because this would not be a popular pick to get a title shot, Ayman Zahabi. I mean, I think he's won 7 or 8 in a row. Yeah, he hasn't beat as high ranked guys that Petr Yan has done.
Yeah,
but Yan has won 3, and the biggest argument, Zahabi hasn't lost to Merab recently like Yan has.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think that would be as more popular. I'd probably be the only person on the planet, me and the Canadians, saying Zahabi, but that's the guy that I think could make an argument.
If this card had the same booking needs and it was 3 months from now, I'd say you could stick Kyoji Horiguchi in either of those and have a pretty compelling matchup. But aside from that, I'm with you. Like Jan is the well. Go ahead.
Yeah, the other guy, and I should have said this. The other guy that could have made an argument is the guy we see in the co-main event. If Pantoja wanted to give it a shot and try to move up and fight Merab, I'd be okay with that because he has defended the belt. He's went on these long runs. So that's the other guy. And I'm not trying to do the double champ thing. That I'm just it's almost overplayed now. But yeah, he has really defended the belt so much. I understand if he'd wanted to try it.
I get that. Interestingly, just this week, Pantoja said I'd move up to challenge for the 135-pound belt if it was someone like O'Malley. I have no interest in moving up and challenging Merab. I love the realism there.
Yeah.
Like, because, and I don't want to start breaking down Merab 13 fights before we need to, but on top of being obviously a great fighter, one of the top, 3 or 4 pound for pound fighters in the sport right now, he's just a miserable guy to fight. Like, why would you want to fight him? It just sounds horrible. It sounds hellish.
Because, I mean, getting knocked out is always terrible. Like, I'm sure fighting Derek Lewis and you lose is a really bad day. But Merab is frustrating on top of it. Like, if you're losing to Merab, it's like you're helpless. It's not like I'm getting punched and he's just slightly better than me. It's like,
Oh,
I have this game plan.
like
I've worked
doing 2 hours of CrossFit and then somebody throws you in the deep end of a swimming pool.
Yeah, I've worked on a game plan for 2 months, and I have not been able to implement it for a single second.
Yeah,
that's
or I remember a point in this fight where Merab was 0 for 6 on his takedowns, and that feels like 3 hours ago. And he, and now he's like sitting on my chest and laughing and like, you know.
I remember like Sandhagen stopped like his first takedown and was like, "Oh, he's in trouble." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, sure."
No. Outside of the top 2 fights on the card, what are you most excited for? Either matchup or individual fighter?
Yeah, that's a tough question because there's actually a lot of fights that I'm really intrigued in, and I really try to go a little deep. I mean, I think Moreno and Tetsuya Taira is a fantastic fight, and I'm always biased towards the flyweights, and a fight that I think might be flying under the radar, and I'll go one way really deep. Muhammad Naimov versus Marvin Santos, and I know I always mess up his first name. Mairon Santos. I think that's a really good one. But I'll give you another one. I'm kind of looking forward to Maycee Barber versus Karine Silva.
Yeah, I like all of those. Aside from you literally grabbed up all the ones I was most interested in out of the top 2. So I won't even go digging any further down in the barrel. Any other general thoughts on this one before we jump in?
No, let's do it.
All right. First up at UFC 323 is a featherweight matchup between Muhammadjon Naimov and Mairon Santos. Naimov, the 31-year-old from Tajikistan, is 13-3 overall. He is 5-1 since joining the UFC as a veteran of season 4 of Dana White's Contender Series. He lost on the Contender Series, joined the UFC a couple of years later anyway. He is on a 2-fight win streak, comprising both of his cage appearances of this year so far. He beat Khan Offley back in February, then came back in June at UFC on ABC Hill versus Roundtree, and won a unanimous decision over Bogdan. He will look to make it 3 in a row in 2025 against Santos. 25-year-old Brazilian is 16-1 overall. He's 3-0 in the UFC. He fought most recently back in May at UFC Fight Night Burns versus Morales, where he won a unanimous decision over Sadiq Youssef. He'll look to make it 4 in a row to start his UFC run. He is comfortably favored to do so. Santos is minus 275, Naimov plus 225 coming back. Keith, you singled this out, the curtain jerker no less, as one of the more intriguing low-key fights on the card. Tell me what you like about it, who you like in the fight, and how you think it plays out.
First of all, I'm surprised by the odds being I thought Santos would be a favorite, but I didn't think he'd be that big of a favorite. Because Naimov is really good, and that's why I like this fight. And I think it's gonna be an action fight. I think both guys are, Naimov is not a prospect. He's more, finished commodity, where Santos is a prospect, but they're both like tough outs. Like they're the ones you get a call for them to fight. You're a guy in the roster. And I'm not saying these guys are scared or anything, but they're not the one you're like, oh yeah, this is an easy day in the office. Naimov, he's a good athlete. He moves well. He's pretty elusive. He cuts angles well. A lot of like L step ins. So it's pretty technical on the feet. Solid striker. He likes to switch stance a lot, kind of get you guessing. A lot of feints to set up his shots. Sometimes I shouldn't say this in an action fight because he can be a little lower output on the feet. It seems like he's very intelligent. He's trying to set up traps to catch his opponents. Guessing like that Anderson Silva, Adesanya style of that. I'm not saying he's that level of striking, but you get my point. The problem is that'll give lulls of action sometimes because he's thinking. He'll throw some fun spinning attacks. Good kicking game, hard body kick, quick high kick, nice teep kick. He loves a spinning wheel kick. He wants to keep the distance. That's why he hated the pressure for Jamie Malarkey in their fight. He doesn't want to fight off his back foot. He will crash in to the pocket, and he'll also get to the clinch from there. And he's good in the clinch. Looks for elbows inside the clinch. He's a very solid wrestler, good entries, some body lock takedowns. He's a good overall grappler if the fight hits the ground. Nice top game. He will stall a little bit on top. And for a guy who's very good offense, he's not the best defense. Bogdan took him down. Bogdan is a pretty solid wrestler, though. and he was quickly submitted by Felipe Lima. Santos, he's only 25, so I mean, you gotta like that. He's looked really good so far. He's a good striker, good footwork. Also cuts angles well on his offensive attacks. He too can be a little bit too patient though, which is concerning. He has very quick hands when he lets him go. He's accurate. He's technical. He's got a nice jab, a lot of variety in his striking. He has nice power, and I've said this before. I mean, it really hasn't come to his power years, even though he did knock out Khan Offley, who's, you know, a pretty decent fighter himself. He knocked him out bad. I love his step and knees. Good kicking game, teep kicks, calf kicks. Not much of an offensive wrestler, and he's a weaker defensive wrestler. And he struggled to get out on the bottom. So that's why the line bothers me, because I think this is a hard fight to pick. Naimov is more well-rounded, while Santos has the much higher upside. But there's an avenue of victory for Naimov. Like, he could just out-wrestle Santos to win. And I am worried about that. I'm expecting Santos to show improvement, hopefully, in his defense wrestling, especially going against a guy like Naimov. He's so good on the feet. He's super fast. I say he lands shots on the fist. I say he has moments he tees off on. Give me Santos to beat Naimov on the feet, to stop enough takedowns from distance. Give me Santos by decision.
Yeah, I like something you mentioned right off the bat, and that's that Naimov is a better athlete than I gave him credit for coming into the UFC. Like, just watching him on the Contender Series way back in 2020 or whenever it was, when he came back, I expected him to be kind of a moderate athlete and undersized to regular sized for featherweight. And yeah, he's just got better physical tools than I gave him credit for. And it's worth noting, he's 5-1 in the UFC. And if not for basically a brain fart, just a lapse in fight IQ, he could be 6-0. He was beating Felipe Lima. I think a lot of people had him up 2 rounds to none.
Yeah.
And Lima just kind of got him against the cage, took his back standing, and choked him out seconds later. Like, it was a great look for Lima. He'd stepped up on like days' notice in that fight. That loss for Naimov has aged pretty well, because Lima has turned out to be a pretty good fighter himself. But if not for that, Naimov would be 6-0 in the UFC right now, and he sure as hell would not be in the curtain jerker of this card. I agree with your take on Santos. And Naimov is a better wrestler than the people who've given Santos problems with their wrestling. I think of like Francis Marshall, where on, you know, not just getting takedowns, but just Santos being aware that Marshall could and wanted to take him down made him seem even more tentative on the feet, a little more gun shy. I could see that happening here. I lean Santos as well. As good as Naimov has been, and again, as good an athlete as he is compared to how I kind of sized him up a few years ago, Santos, I think, is going to be bigger, quicker. As you like to point out, he's a young enough fighter that he could be making significant improvements from fight to fight. He's only been at Extreme Couture, I think, for like 3 camps now. You know that they're absolutely going to dial in on, okay, this is what Naimov is probably going to do to try and beat you, and have a game plan for that. So I lean towards Santos by decision here as well, but I'm with you in that there could be stretches of this fight that are not barn burner material, as these two could be a little tentative. And while I lean towards Santos winning the fight, he may not look like a 3-1 favorite. I agree with you on that as well, but it's unanimous to kick off this card. Middleweights take the cage next at UFC 323 as Mansur Abdul-Malik faces off against Antonio Trocoli. Abdul-Malik, the 28-year-old Marylander, is 8-0-1 as a professional. He's 2-0-1 since joining the UFC out of Season 8 of Dana White's Contender Series. That one draw on his record came in his most recent outing. That was back in June at UFC on ESPN, Usman versus Buckley, where in one of the more bizarre officiating gaffes in a weird year for officiating, if we're being honest, a technical decision turned into a technical draw after the fact, as Brundage's people correctly appealed the ruling. There was an inadvertent foul early in the third round. The judges on the spot were asked to score the 36 seconds of the third round. It was pointed out after the fact that the rule in Georgia is that partial rounds are never scored, so it turned into a draw. At any rate, Abdul-Malik looking to get back on track here, and he will need to do it against Trocoli.
Can I just jump in real quick?
Of course.
Just for the record, I think that's the right rule. Like, that should be the rule. Like, in the states that have that you score a partial round, like 30 seconds should not be equal to 5 minutes of another round. Like, that shouldn't be equal. Anyways, Karen.
I think half the round being elapsed would be a sensible cutoff point.
Yeah, that's at least better. Yeah.
Well, if somebody gets poked in the eye with like 40 seconds left in a round.
Sure, that's fair.
Yeah.
But like, but like 30, but on the flip side, like 30 seconds.
Yeah. But yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Trocoli, 34-year-old Brazilian, is 12-5 with 1 no contest overall. He is 0-2 in the UFC. He fought on the Contender Series back in season 3. It was overturned when he tested positive for banned substances. He got 2 years on the shelf. The UFC held his seat for him, sort of. But yeah, 0-2. And it'll be just over a year since the last time we saw him. He got guillotined by Tresean Gore last November. So he's been on the shelf for a year, steps back in here. Tough draw. Abdul-Malik is the biggest favorite on the card. He is minus 1,000. Trocoli plus 700.
Wow.
On pure skill, physical gifts, Abdul-Malik deserves to be a big favorite here.
Sure.
He is 10 times the athlete Trocoli is. While Trocoli is a very good grappler, Malik was a very good amateur wrestler, and he is the kind of wrestler that it has translated to MMA. So I understand why he's a favorite and should rightly be a big favorite, but minus 1,000 on the heels of the Brundage fight is a little concerning, and here's why. And if you're watching this right now or listening, you've heard this rant from me a million times, but here is why I say this. When you have a fighter that comes to the UFC with fewer than 10 fights and you look at their record, they've just blown everyone out of the water in the first 8 or 9 minutes of the fight. They often don't really have a game yet. They are used to being so much faster, stronger, harder hitting, have maybe one elite component skill that's completely unstoppable to regional level fighters, that they're not used to having to control a fight, force the action. They can just sort of either go out aggressive and overwhelm their foe, or wait for him to make a single mistake, take him down, choke him out, or hit him, with punches and knock him out. The problem with the Brundage fight is not the foul and the weirdness in the third round. It's that Brundage won the second round, and all Brundage did was stop running at Malik. And that's it. You could see Abdul-Malik kind of cycle through multiple bad ideas of what to do when this completely overmatched fighter was in front of him and just kind of waiting for him. He ran straight at him like a maniac with flying wild stuff. He tried just sitting and doing nothing himself, and he ended up, I haven't gone back and checked the scores, but I believe the judges all scored, well, yeah, would have had to be because it was a draw. Yeah, like he lost a terrible round to, frankly, just not a very good fighter. Like, I understand that Cody Brundage is a great dude, but he has been hanging on to the UFC roster by his fingernails for what feels like 5 years now. Abdul-Malik, if he keeps developing like he is, again, develops a little bit more of a game, he blisters Brundage in 90 seconds a year from now. Just the fact that I can't trust Mansur Abdul-Malik to win rounds against, like an overmatched fighter, unless that fighter makes a mistake or forces the issue, is a little concerning. Like, I'm not picking Trocoli in the upset. That would take something. I mean, that would take something colossally stupid. Like, either we would have to learn that Abdul-Malik has no gas tank and he just dies late in the third round, or he'd have to like knock Trocoli down and dive right into a triangle or something. or Trocoli would have to line up the greatest haymaker of his life against a guy that's 10 times as fast as he is. Those are all low percentage things. I'm guessing that Abdul-Malik comes out here with something to prove and just dusts Trocoli. I'm going first round knockout, but it would be more interesting to me as someone who's tracking Abdul-Malik as a prospect and maybe potential future contender if he was kind of forced to turn past page one and see what his backup plan is if Trocoli doesn't just die in the first 3 minutes of this fight. I don't think we see it because I am picking Trocoli to die in the first 3 minutes of this fight. Give me Abdul-Malik by first round TKO. Probably drops him, then just dives in 3 more punches and this is over.
Yeah, I mean, I figured Abdul-Malik would be a pretty big favorite. Of course, I was thinking like negative 350, but so I said like this, there's not a bad fight on this card. This is the one probably I'm least interested in on the card. It has a lot to do with Trocoli. I mean, the guy's a big dude. I mean, 6'5". He switches stances a lot. But nothing really jumps out. He tries to hand fight a lot to use his reach, which I think is smart. The problem is he isn't a good boxer. He avoids strikes by backing straight up. I do like his step in knees. That's the best part of his game, especially someone of his size. But I mean, go back to his fight against Magomedov. Magomedov is tearing up his legs because he doesn't check leg kicks into the big targets. He wants to wrestle and he looks for it a lot, but he isn't very good at it. He likes to kind of close the distance and look for like upper body locks, likes to judo throws and trips. He will try entries from the outside, but again, he doesn't set him up. He shoots from too far away. He is a grappler, and I've seen him have good back takes against lower level competition. He has 5 subs, but then he was also quickly submitted by Tresean Gore, and he gassed out against Magomedov. I know in fairness, he took that fight in like 1 day's notice and had to cut a bunch of weight and on a flight and everything, so you could get a little bit of a pass by that. Abdul-Malik, he's a hot prospect. A lot of people are really high on him. I'm not as high on him as other people are, but I definitely can see talent. He's a big middleweight. He fights out of both stances. He's been the concern with him on the feet. He's been very gun shy since he's come in the UFC. When he's let his hands go, he's got a good jab. He can be very wild with his power shots because he's very raw. He's big hooks. He does have power. He's got a big kicking game. He likes to work from distance and really hates to be pressured. You're higher on his wrestling than I am. Right? He is a good wrestler. He's a former college wrestler. I mean, he went to Maryland. He had a very good high school resume, but he was never an All-American in college. He's a good MMA wrestler, I'd say. Like he gets some body lock takedowns. I'm more impressed with what happens when he gets the fight to the ground. He's had some scary ground and pound. I mean, we saw him smash Dusko Todorovic with ground and pound. But as you mentioned, he has gassed out a lot, and it probably has to because of how big he is. So I'm not as high on either guy. I'm definitely going to take Abdul-Malik. If he lets his hands go, he should be much better than Trocoli. He's faster. He hits harder. He's the better wrestler. I say he does let his hands go. After I'm just said that I am not that high on him, I will say he gets like the best one of his, or one of the most impressive ones of his career. And he cracks Trocoli early. Give me Abdul-Malik by first round TKO.
Next up on the UFC 323 undercard is a light heavyweight matchup that former UFC matchmaker Joe Silva might have come up with just for shits and giggles, as it is Ivo versus Ibo. Iwo Baraniewski versus Ibo Aslan. This one, assuming it is Daniel Cormier on the mic, should be an absolute laugh riot. Anyway, Baraniewski, 27-year-old from Poland, perfect 6-0 as a professional. This will be his UFC debut. He fought on Dana White's Contender Series back in September, knocking out Muhammad Ali. Not that Muhammad Ali, the Brazilian Muhammad Ali, in just 20 seconds. One of the 3 or 4 fastest knockouts in Contender Series history. That got him the call up, obviously, because that's what the Contender Series does these days. And this will be his debut. He'll be going up against Aslan, 29-year-old from Turkey via Austria. He's 14-3 overall. He's 2-2 in the UFC. He's on a 2-fight losing streak comprising both of his cage appearances of this year. He got tapped out by Iwan Kudalaba back in February, then came back in July at UFC on ABC, Whitaker versus De Ridder, and dropped a unanimous decision to Billy Elikana. So Aslan trying to get back above 500 in the UFC. Not favored to do so. Baraniewski is minus 190, Aslan plus 155 on the comeback. If you're watching this right now and you're wondering when I'm going to start quizzing Keith about the odds, here's the thing. I tried quizzing him about all of them on the card a couple weeks ago, but on the ones with wider lines, it forced him to kind of tip his hand on which fighter he favored. I didn't like that. So on the lines that are close, I'll have you guess. If there are any extravagantly wide lines, I might have you guess how bad the line is. But okay, on these that are kind of around 2-1, 3-1, I'm just going to spit them out. Anyway, Baraniewski minus 190, Aslan plus 155. Iwo Baraniewski is, I don't want to lay this all at his feet because he is a mildly interesting prospect. He's a guy that even if he had won his fight on the Contender Series in normal fashion would be kind of an interesting addition to the UFC, but he was an underdog against Muhammad Ali. Like, I think he was the biggest underdog on that whole episode of the Contender Series. But if you blast somebody in 20 seconds and you got Dan Hellie and Lorosenko like screaming into their mics and they cut to Dana going, you're in, whether you're ready or not. I don't know if he's ready. He is a stocky, muscular 205-pounder. He's a decent athlete, very, very strong. I believe he comes from a judo background. Those guys always kind of have a core strength and natural power, or, acquired power that doesn't always line up with their physique, although his physique is jacked. But you look at the crowning achievement of his career so far, knocking out Ali in 20 seconds. For one thing, the fight had been a slop fest for all 20 seconds. Like, Ali had almost taken him off his feet with like the first leg kick he threw, and then just came in. I don't know what Ali was trying to do. He's almost throwing this like half hook, half jab that was coming up from his waist level, just wide open, and Baraniewski clocked him, and the fight was over. It was a great highlight, and it told me exactly nothing about whether Iwo Baraniewski is ready to take on UFC level light heavyweights. At least Aslan will teach us that, but Aslan at this point, he's 2-2 in the UFC. He's fought Iwan Kudalaba and got crushed. Then his other 3 fights have been against 3 of the lowest level 205-pounders in the UFC, and he's slotted in right alongside them. He seems like a marginal talent. Like, he's a pretty big guy. He's not very athletic. I think he's kind of plodding. Hands not particularly fast. He does have good power. I mean, he's got a ton of knockouts, and they are honest to goodness knockouts. Even in the UFC, when he's hit people, it has definitely hurt them. I'm going to sound like Keith here, but I think this fight should be a pick'em. Like, there's certainly a chance that Baraniewski catches Aslan. Aslan makes a ton of mistakes on the feet and is going to be slower of hand and foot anyway. So even if he's pretty well buttoned up defensively on Saturday, Baraniewski might catch him anyway. But we know so little about Baraniewski. He's never been out of a first round. And as built as he is, and as hard as he swings, and as kind of aggressive as he is in clinch situations, I could easily see him being the kind of guy that gasses himself out in 7 or 8 minutes. We have no idea. And that would make me nervous about taking him as a 2-1 favorite as he is here. I've been on the fence about this one. I'm going to go with the new fighter. Baraniewski is aggressive. He's going to come forward. He's going to swing. He's going to swing first. And that makes me lean towards him winning rounds if neither guy knocks the other out. Again, it's an open question whether he'll be the same fighter at the end of the second round as he was at the beginning of the first. But maybe we don't get there. Give me Baraniewski by second round TKO.
Yeah. So I said just a minute ago that the last fight was one I'm least interested in. I guess because of Baraniewski is a prospect, I have some interest in this. But yeah, this is one of the ones that this is my friend. Like he's got that spread, and this is like the cheese pizza. Like, okay, like really, dude. Like, okay, I'm happy, but
you do a potluck and other people are like either bringing cool restaurant food or something that they made at home, and he's a guy that just like brought a little box of KFC or something.
Yeah,
like, come on, dude, put some effort in.
No, I wish my friends would bring KFC. Like I have a friend who like show up like what we do that for like our fantasy football draft. Like we all bring food. My friend Aaron brings these like awesome chicken wings, and I bring a couple pizzas and different that, and like you get that like one cheapskate shows up like a bag of Doritos, like throws it on the like thanks dude, thanks for that $3. My friend Aaron spent like $150 making wings. So you threw it out in the freaking like a solo size too of the not even like the party size, Doritos, and at least get the dip or something, but give me some cheese dip or something. But yeah, I think I'd rather talk about like my favorite things to dip chips in than talk about this fight. And it's really Ibo Aslan. Like I'm not a fan of him. I mean, he's a striker, not a good athlete. He's very flat-footed, very plodding. His output has been very bad recently. When he does crash into the pocket and throws big hooks, and that's his best chance of victory because he has power. You mentioned he has like 14 TKOs, but almost all of them came against extremely low-level competition. In the UFC, he's best if he's in a brawl. Like get in the pocket and throw it on, swing hard, and maybe you land. The problem is he gets hit a lot because he lacks head movement. He can throw kicks. I mean, he's a big guy. He's got some good calf kicks. He likes some switch kicks. He's not much of an offensive wrestler. He's not much of a defense wrestler, and he has. Of his 3 losses, 2 of them have been by submission, so that's concerning. Baraniewski, there's not a lot of film on this guy because he finishes everyone super quick. But to his credit, he does have an extended amateur career, like actually amateur MMA career, and that was most of the film I saw on him. He has a decent boxer. He's got a nice straight right. He really steps into his shots. He's got 4 TKOs, so we know he has power. He throws some hard calf kicks. An okay wrestler. He likes to like body lock takedowns, but he can also shoot from the outside. Good ground and pound. He has 2 subs on his record. He had a slick armbar from bottom as an amateur. And you said, I'm really worried about his cardio too, as I never really seen him get out of the first round since he turned pro. So I am taking Baraniewski here. And it's more of just a whim. Like I think the line should be closer. I say he just brings the fight to Aslan, and I say he just clips him early. So I'll say he might set up people to have to make a lot of money in his next fight betting against him, because I think if he knocks out Aslan and we saw him not like fantastic knockout on the Contender Series, he could be overpriced in his next fight. I'm with you. I think he's very raw, but give me Baraniewski by first round TKO.
Lightweights are up next at UFC 323 as Edson Barboza squares off against Jalin Turner. Barboza, the 39-year-old Brazilian, is 24-13 overall. He is 18-13 since joining the UFC almost exactly 15 years ago. His UFC debut was in November 2010. It was UFC 123, Rampage versus Machida. I'm not saying it was a long time ago, but this thing had like Dennis Hallman versus Caro Parisian on it. This dude has been in the UFC for a minute.
That's a great one, man. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah. 18-13 in the UFC. He's been in the UFC for a million years. He's had his ups and downs over a storied career, compiling one of the greatest highlight reels in MMA history. He is on a 2-fight losing streak currently. He fought most recently back in August at UFC 319, dropping a unanimous decision to Drakkar Klose. Prior to that, you have to go all the way back to last spring, where he lost a 5-round decision to Laron Murphy. So, I mean, as recently as last year, this guy who's about to turn 40 was in almost de facto title eliminators in the featherweight division. Like, it's kind of wild how competitive he has stayed this late in his career. He does need to snap this losing streak. If he wants to do it, he's going to have to get past Turner. 30-year-old Californian is 14-9 overall. He's 7-6 in the UFC. He's on a 2-fight losing streak as well. He fought most recently at UFC 313 back in March, where he got tapped out in the first round by Ignacio Bahamondes. Prior to that, you go back to last spring, UFC 300, where he got pounded out in the second round by Renato Moicano. So he's lost 4 of his last 5. If he wants to keep his job, let alone show that he's still a future factor in this division, he really does need to get back on track here. He is favored to do so, and comfortably favored, as he is minus 300, Barboza plus 240. It's an interesting thing here. Like, Edson Barboza, he's 18-13 in the UFC. He's had, like I said, he's had his ups and downs. He's never really been at risk of losing his roster spot. He's also never really made a run into title contention. Even when he's been fighting top level contenders, he's been the B side of those fights. Like, but, and then he's fighting someone in Turner who is barely above 500 in the UFC. But here's the interesting thing. Turner is an inconsistent fighter. Barboza, he's not inconsistent. He's just very dependent on matchups, and always has been. Like, he's developed some here and there, but basically the blueprint to beating Edson Barboza has been the same for 15 years. He is the classic kicker that hates being crowded, kickboxer who hates being put on the back foot. Obviously, if you can take him down, that's a great key to beating him. But, starting as long as like 10 years ago, people like Michael Johnson showed, no, like, you can beat him without taking him down as long as you stay inside of his kicking range, keep him on the back foot, make him uncomfortable. You can outstrike this guy. It's just been, if it was easy to do, more people would do it. Turner is the kind of lightweight that simply did not exist when Edson Barboza got to the UFC. When Barboza got to the UFC, he might have been the tallest guy in the lightweight division. Like, think about that.
Yeah, it was like Frankie Eggers and Jim Miller's, and yeah.
And I mean, Jalin Turner's like this 6'3" dude, and it's interesting that, well, it may be not that weird to say this, but even though Turner, you look at his record, you look at his ratio of, knockouts, TKOs to submission victories, I really do think his best shot at beating Barboza here, or I would say his most secure route to beating Barboza, is to really try and get him down. Like, Barboza's takedown defense isn't as bad as it's reputed to be. It isn't as bad as it used to be. But when taken down, he still doesn't do much other than survive and try to get back up. Like, one thing you can say for Barboza is he isn't the kind of guy that wastes time on his back, throwing up low percentage submissions. Like, he tries, to get butterfly hooks and kick the guy off. He tries to scoot to the fence and stand back up. Like, he is urgent to get back to his feet, but Turner is a nightmare from top position. Like, we've seen him just frustrate, in some cases, pretty good ground fighters just by being so big and, I nickname aside, kind of spidery. Like, people just doing the right things to escape and being like, how am I still under this guy? And it's because he can basically cover the entire, like, octagon with his hand and foot wingspan. I expect Turner to win this fight. Barboza at this point, it is shocking how quick and explosive he still is as he's pushing 40, but he's slowed a bit. And his gas tank and durability have begun to wane. But I wouldn't be shocked to see Barboza just come out and cruise to a pretty easy looking victory, just kind of kicking at Turner's legs and moving laterally and exposing Turner's difficulty cutting off the cage, even as a guy that can like go from one warning track to the other with like one step. I'm not picking that to happen, but yeah, give me Turner to win. I'm going to say wins a decision here. And I think it's probably just going to be moving forward, making Barboza move backward, taking advantage of the fact that Barboza's volume seems to have been dropping off in recent years. Yeah, give me Turner just to kind of win 2 rounds out of 3 in a pretty competitive fight here.
Yeah. Edson Barboza, I mean, this guy's such a fun guy, and it's kind of sad that this guy never reached the upper echelon of the division. And I'm not saying win the title, but just have that like little run that we've seen guys make where they're headlining all the time, or they, you know, Donald Cerrone, you get, yeah, and I'm not saying comparing to Donald Cerrone, but I mean like getting a title shot, or Gray Maynard, or one of these guys who had a moment. Like he never had his moment, and that's too bad. As far as this fight, it's well, first of all, I thought he beat Trocoli close. I mean, regardless, it you know, it's where Barboza is now. I mean, he's losing to kind of unranked guys in the division. He's a Muay Thai striker, obviously. He's a bit of a builder. He picks up the pace when his opponent starts to slow down when he's landing shots. You said it. He still has fast hands. He's got a nice jab, a good straight right. He's got a great left hook to the body. He has plus power, you know, in his hands, his punching power. But obviously, he's on the Mount Rushmore of kickers. I mean, the guy. I always think of the Dan Hooker fight. I know it's such a long time ago, but it is legendary. Just absolutely destroyed. Like it was one of those fights where I'm sitting there and I'm watching the guy just one Hooker being too tough for his own good, but just sitting there and go, why do I like this? Like, is something mentally wrong with me that I'm watching this and I enjoy this and it's like my top hobby? You know, what the hell's wrong with me? So
no, dude, I'm so with you on this. In hindsight, one of the biggest upset outcomes in MMA history is that Dan Hooker has fought like 15 more times since then.
Yeah,
like
yeah, you look like
that should have been it for him. I think he was like 24 years old at the time. That should have been it. Like done.
Yeah, it looked like a career in there. It's one of those moments where I watch a guy get beat up and I'm like, dude, if I was alive 2,000 years ago, would I have been buying tickets for the Coliseum to watch like gladiators kill each other? Like, would I have been one of those guys like cheering in the crowd and like be an extra in Spartacus or some shit? Like, what is the hell's wrong with me?
It's Saturday's main event. They're gonna feed Dan Hooker to a lion. Like,
yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah, give him a little knife, and that'll be fair. So he's got good stepping knees. Some of it I don't think gets talked about enough. But I think you said it bad. I mean, you broke it down right. We know the way he loses. He loses because he wants space and you pressure him, and he hates pressure. He is exhibit A, B, C, and D of crowd the kicker. I mean, we've known that about him for his whole career. The thing that bothers me at this point in his career is he doesn't avoid strikes well anymore. Trocoli close was landing way too easily on him. The close kept landing the same straight left. I'm also worried about his durability. Now, he's been in so many wars. It's funny when we talk about guys in their like all-time toughness, we don't mention it, but he's not the guy who comes up in your brain right away.
Because he's such an offensive machine.
Yeah. But the wars he's been in the beatings he's taken, he should be. You know what I mean? Yeah, because you think of like a Darren Elkins, because he's not this like he's Darren Elkins. I know he's the damage, but he's not the guy like pouring out the damage.
Yeah. Well, yeah, his nickname isn't because he gives out damage.
Yeah,
it's because he survives damage and still wins. Yeah,
has the moments when you think of him, you think about him giving the damage, but he's also been on the other end, and he's so freaking tough. So that's. But I'm worried just because he's 40 years old. He turns 40 next month. He's been in so many wars, so that's what worries me. Obviously, offensively, he's never going to look for a takedown. I think you're a little higher on his takedown defense than I am. He also struggles to get, if he's taken down, he struggles to kind of get back up. He, to his credit, for a guy who's known for kickboxing, he has good submission defense. It's very rare for him to get submitted, but his cardio has also dropped over the years. You mentioned Jalin Turner. The first thing you think of is how big of a dude he is, long and lanky, pretty well rounded. He's a solid striker. Kind of works best from distance, quick hands, explosive, accurate. Kind of just touches, doesn't really waste a lot of energy. And then when he springs, when there's an open and capitalize, he has really big power in his hands. Obviously, huge kicks a lot, hard body kicks, teep kicks. You mentioned it. He's an underrated ground specialist. I'd say he's a decent wrestler. Like, I wouldn't say he's a great wrestler, but he's a good overall grappler. I mean, his takedown defense isn't consistent. I would probably still put it in the weak category, but his scrambling is good. He can scramble, tossing up submissions from really all different positions. Due to his length, he can kind of get submission. We saw him get back-to-back submissions against Brock Weaver, and Yoros mentioned that was a while ago, but still. But he subbed Brad Riddell with a guillotine. He has 4 subs, and so that's good. He did gas a little against Dan Hooker, and that's what kind of cost him the fight. So that's something else to watch out for. I'm glad that you giving Barboza a much better chance than the odds are coming. I tend to always do that when it comes to the odds. I always kind of say, well, it's gonna be closer first than you could think. And I think this is a tough one because at this point in the career, to me, I'm not very high on Barboza, but Turner, he just has off nights sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes
that's the point I was making. Yeah. Turner is inconsistent. Barboza is consistent. He's just very subject to matchup dynamics. Yeah. But
good Turner is like, oh my God, this guy could win the title. Like, he has those flashes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take Turner. He's bigger, he's younger. As crazy as it sounds, I think he hits harder at this point of his career than Barboza does. He has a way better ground game. I think Barboza is still insanely tough that he makes it to a decision, but I think he picks up another. I like your idea of Turner getting takedowns. I think that's a smart strategy. Maybe get to like the plum clinch too. I can see him like working there. Give me Turner by decision.
Middleweights take the cage next at UFC 323 as Marvin Vettori faces off against Bruno Ferreira. Vettori, the 32-year-old Italian by way of Southern California, is 19-9-1 overall. He's 9-7-1 in the UFC. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, the first losing streak of any kind of his entire career. He's already fought twice this year, dropped a unanimous decision to Roman Dolidze in the headliner of UFC Fight Night 254 back in March, then came back in July at UFC 318 and dropped a unanimous decision to Brendan Allen. So he very much needs to get back in the win column here. In order to do so, he will need to get past Ferreira. 33-year-old Brazilian is 14-2 overall. He is 5-2 since joining the UFC out of season 6 of Dana White's Contender Series. He's on a 2-fight win streak, comprising both of his cage appearances of 2025. He armbarred Armen Petrosyan at UFC 313 back in March, then came back at UFC 318 in July and armbarred Jackson McVeigh. So he is on an armbar campaign. Would presumably like to make it 3 in a row. Keith, your favorite is minus 115. Underdog, even money, plus 100. Who are they?
Vettori's a favorite?
You are correct. Marvin Vettori, minus 115. Bruno Ferreira, plus 100. I feel as though I say this almost every single week, at least once, but Marvin Vettori has a lot of tread off the tires for a 32-year-old. I can't believe that Ferreira is a year older than Vettori. And it's not like Vettori has that many more career fights, but he's just been in the UFC so long, really fighting the best middleweights in the world for so long, and kind of a blood and guts fighter, even, in victory. It feels as though he's an old 32.
He's like someone buys say a 2018 car, but they drive it every single day on the highway, bumping on the traffic, versus a guy who buys a 2018 car, but he's an old retired guy. He takes it out once a week. Like, it's different. That's what these two guys are.
Oh, it's my wife. Like, my wife leases a new Honda every 3 years. Like, her idea of luxury is having a new car every 3 years that if anything breaks, she takes it to the dealership. She always has a fairly new car. My idea of luxury is having a car that's paid off. So, we both get what we want. But like, she works at a hospital that's 1.5 miles from our house. So she gets these cars with like an allowance of 10,000 miles per year. And she puts like 1,500 miles a year on these cars.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, her car is not Marvin Vettori, let alone Robbie Lawler or whatever. The wear and tear, to me, is the only reason why this line could or should justifiably be as close as it is, because I think Vettori is actually more skilled than Ferreira everywhere. And while Vettori's on a 3-fight losing streak, they've all been against top 10, top 15 at worst fighters. They've all been against very good fighters, better than Brunno Ferreira fighters. I've had to fess up a few times over the past couple months as we've previewed fights for fighters where when they debuted in the UFC, I've said, all right, this guy's not good. He's not UFC material. This isn't going to work out, and had to eat my words. Ferreira is 5-2 in the UFC at this point, and I'm still clinging to that. I'm still not a believer. He's lost badly to the two good fighters he's fought. Like, he clocked Gregory Rodriguez in his UFC debut. Like, nobody can take that away from him. Like, I'm not going to call it a fluke. Like, he went up against a very good fighter, punched him in the face. Thing was over in, like 3 or 4 minutes. But, you run, if Ferreira fights Gregory Rodriguez 10 times, I think Rodriguez probably wins 8 of them. Then outside of that, Ferreira's, I won't call him undersized, because he probably walks around at like 225 pounds. Like, he's a chunk of muscle, but he's like this 5'10", short-armed kind of brawler with a sneaky good ground game. And he's a decent athlete, but like, he's not as good of an athlete as most fighters of his stature that actually make headway at 185. He's not Jared Cannonier. Like, for this fight to be almost a pick'em, I think people are misjudging Vettori based on how he's looked against elite fighters. Like, I think Vettori probably just kind of wins a ho-hum decision here. Like, his whole thing has been that even though, he's built like a fighter from a movie, he doesn't actually have massive power. Like, he's a decent athlete with decent power, and he's, actually a pretty composed striker, underratedly good wrestler. He's a load to deal with against the cage and in clinch situations. Aside from Ferreira like clocking him with a big punch like he did against Rodriguez, or Vettori making the kind of blunder on the ground that I've never really seen him make, I actually think this is a pretty straightforward win for Marvin Vettori. Like, unless he looks old and shop worn overnight, I think he probably wins all 3 rounds. And yeah, I don't do this every week, but I'm going to jump in and say, for as close as this fight is on the books, this my lock of the night. I think Vettori handles Ferreira.
Nice. Well, you've always been a big Marvin Vettori guy. Like,
the angriest man in Italy. That's one of my favorite. Yeah.
I'm glad this fight is close on the betting lines, because it does have a little bit of a like passing of the torch feel to it. Like the two escalators thing. Ferreira, say what you want about him, he is on a nice little run. Yeah. But the thing that you pointed out that I kind of was going to point out too is like Vettori, he's been on a skid, but it's two good dudes. Like, this is a step down in competition for him. Yeah. Vettori, he's a pressure striker. Does best when he's in the pocket, throwing like hard hooks, trying to end the fight with every single shot. He has a good left hook, but he does look for it a little too much. He likes to work the body. I've said this even. I'm probably a little bit more on Vettori's on the decline than you are, but I understand the pick here because like he might be on the decline, but it still could be two stores higher than Ferreira. But I've been saying this even when he was, main eventing or fighting against Israel Adesanya for the title. Like his power is grossly overrated. So,
just he looks like he hits like a ton of bricks.
Yeah,
So
yeah, but he doesn't. He drops his hands. He does move his head pretty well. He does a lot of like shoulder rolls. He can close the distance and grind in the clinch. He's a better wrestler than he gets credit for, as you pointed out. He's got some good entries, good, better grappler than you think, especially topside. He's a good topside grappler. He can get a submission. A concern I have since he was out for a while and he's returned is seems like his cardio has dipped over the years. Like his output and he slows down in fights. Brunno Ferreira, I'm with you. Like I don't have the best read on this guy. He's a southpaw, though he will switch stances. First far as striking, he's a boxer, not technical, but he is explosive. He does set up his shots a lot with feints, and he has massive power. I mean, you look at me. We talk about Vettori looking like a guy who can knock people out. Brunno Ferreira is same category. He's got a short right hook from the southpaw stance. It's kind of like his big shot. He's got 9 TKOs. Problem is his defense sucks. He needs to tuck his chin. He gets hit a lot. He's open to leg kicks. He has the judo black belt. He's been wrestling a lot lately. He was getting takedowns against Phil Halls, which was pretty impressive. His entries are kind of weird. He can get takedowns from distance. He explodes into his entry, but he kind of just ducks his head and bull rushes, but it works for him. So he's a good grappler, though. He has 5 submissions on his record. He's got back-to-back submission wins. He is a bad defensive wrestler. But he did pretty well against Gregor Rodriguez on the bottom, which was, obviously a win that has aged really well. Due to his explosive style, he will gas out. And I am a little worried about his chin as he was starched by Huzabayev. So
yep.
I'm super torn on this one. Vettori is the more tactical one, but I'm not sure if he's shot or not. Brunno Ferreira is more explosive, but he has way more holes, and I'm not sure if he's good. Like this level good. I feel like this fight will know instantly, maybe a minute and a half in, who's going to win this fight. Yep. Like either the fight's over and Brunno has already knocked him out, or Vettori is just picking him apart, leg kicking him, jabbing him, leg kicking him. And it's just like, and Ferreira's loading up for big shots, missing. He's trying to get to the clinch. He can't get to it. Vettori's L-stepping and cutting angles on him. So I'm torn on this one. I think we might get a little bit back and forth. I say Ferreira might surprise and get some takedowns. I say Vettori's tough and hangs on. I think he makes a rally in the third, but I think time's going to run. I'm going to say Ferreira actually is good, and his ground game that is underrated actually works out on it and shows that it's really good. And he got some takedowns against Marvin Vettori. I'm going to go with a slight upset. I'm going to go Brunno Ferreira in this, like I said, a passing of the torch moment. Give me Ferreira by decision.
All right. Well, we have our first disagreement of the night. We have our first upset pick of the night, and it is an upset pick against the other guy's lock of the night. So Something's got to give. I might be adding Ferreira to the list of UFC prospects that I have unfairly maligned by the end of the night on Saturday. So tune into the recap for that one. Up next on the UFC 323 undercard is a lightweight scrap between Nazim Sadykhov and Ziam. Sadykhov, the 31-year-old Azerbaijani by way of Long Island, is 11-1-1 overall. He's 4-0-1 in the UFC, and he's on a 2-fight winning streak comprising both of his cage appearances of this year so far. He beat Ismail Bonfim by TKO via doctor stoppage between the first and second round at UFC Fight Night Cannonier versus Rodriguez back in February, then came back in June at UFC on ABC Hill versus Roundtree and knocked out Nicholas Mota in the second round. He'll look to make it 3 in a row and go undefeated in his first 6 fights in the UFC against Ziam, who was working on a pretty impressive streak of his own. 28-year-old Frenchman is 17-4 overall. He's 7-2 in the UFC. He lost to Terrance McKinney by lightning stroke first round submission all the way back in 2022, and he's won 5 straight fights since then, including his most recent outing this February, where he won a unanimous decision over Mike Davis. That was at UFC Fight Night, Adesanya versus Imavov back in February. So Ziam back in the cage after 9 months, looking for his 6th straight win. Keith, your favorite is -140, underdog +110. Who are they?
I'm going to say Ziam's the favorite.
You're correct. For Ziam, -140. Nazim Sadykhov, +110. I just finished talking about Bruno Ferreira and whether he is or is not somebody that I unfairly dismissed on his arrival in the UFC. I didn't flat out dunk on either of these guys, but I definitely did not pick these two to be meeting here looking to extend unbeaten streaks to 6 fights. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't care who you're fighting. That is an achievement in the UFC lightweight division.
Sure.
And they're not fighting bottom feeders. Like Ziam, he's beaten Jai Herbert. He's beaten Matt Frivola on this run. Like they're not top
Sure.
15 fighters, but they are reliable, like tough out, quote unquote,
Sure.
fighters for years.
Especially when they
Sadykhov.
call him.
Yeah. Sadykhov beat Terrance McKinney. I don't think it was Ismail Bonfim's first loss that he handed him, but it was still pretty impressive when he did it. And then clocking Nicholas Mota, who, I mean, he is kind of a live by the sword, die by the sword guy, but like they're not beating chumps. Like this is low key a really good fight between two quietly very good fighters. Tell me what you like about this fight. Tell me who you think wins.
Yeah, I like both guys. I think both are really, I don't want to say prospects, but newer faces in the, like they should be ranked. Like they should be, the winner of this fight should face a ranked fighter next. So, and I think they'll do well. Like Ziam, he's obviously the first thing to stand out. He's such a big dude. He's long and lanky. I don't know how tall he is, but he's very tall for the division. He's a very good kickboxer. Fights behind like a high guard defense. Defensively, he does stand way too tall for my liking. I mean, obviously, some of his hints just being tall, but he keeps his chin high. He lacks head movement. But he works well from distance. He uses his length and his footwork to keep his distance. He's similar to Barboza. Like he wants his space. He doesn't like being pressured, but he's accurate. He's quick. He's got nice crisp jab. He's a bit of a point fighter on the feet, and he doesn't really step into his big shots. But when he does land, he can't put you out. But I'm saying he's still working, just hitting his pot shot from distance. His power is more like cumulative than like one punch, turn your lights out. But his knees and kicks are a completely different story. They're the best part of his game. He uses his knees and elbows better than anybody in the game. He's getting that like mid-range, does a lot of body work, big kicking game, hard calf kicks, flying knees up the middle. His KO of Matt Frivola was scary. He's an underrated wrestler. He can sneak in a takedown every once in a while. We saw it against Matt Frivola. We saw it against Mike Davis. I'm not sure about his takedown defense. It's good one fight, and then it looks really bad another. Like he looked really bad against Claudio Puelles. But he's a good overall grappler. He keeps his his hips moving. He swept Jamie Malarkey. He tapped out Terrance McKinney. So his submission game is good. Sadykhov, southpaw. He's a pressure counter striker. Good output on the feet, good at slipping and ripping. He defensively, he pillars too much for my liking, so that's a little concerning. But his offense, I like his offense. Nice straight left. He targets the body. He has some pop in his hands. He's a good kicker. I mean, he destroyed Ismail Bonfim with a question mark kick, which of all things, which I loved. He throws some spinning stuff out. He's a good wrestler. He doesn't have the best fight IQ sometimes though. Like he wasn't wrestling Vyacheslav Barshov, which is I'm sorry, I know I butchered that name.
But yeah, it's pronounced the guy with the worst takedown defense in the entire division.
And he didn't wrestle him, which was surprising.
Yeah.
Not the best when he does get the fight to the ground, not the best control, but he does have good ground and pound. He can get a submission. He subbed Terrance McKinney, and he's got good cardio. So I think this is a pretty even matchup. What'd you say the odds were? Ziam was the favorite?
Ziam's minus 140, Sadykhov plus
good.
110. Yeah,
good.
Very close.
Yeah, I'm glad that it wasn't like something stupid. Honestly, I think the line could be even closer. I'm gonna go with Ziam because I like his knees and his kicks, and I think he hurts Sadykhov with them. I think that's going to be the difference. I think it's going to give him a narrow victory. If anybody gets a stoppage, I definitely think Ziam is the one who would get the stoppage too. But I'm going to say in this case, it's going to be a decision. But like I said earlier, in the first fight between Naimov and Santos, they're like not the guys you want to get a call to fight next. I feel like Ziam and Sadykhov, if he wins, are like the same category. Like not big names, more like the risk ain't worth the reward. And yeah, I hope the winner of this gets a ranked fighter next.
Well, and it's interesting because when you said that, I agreed with you in principle, and then I kind of looked down in the lower reaches of the division. If one guy wins this fight in, say, uncontroversial fashion, like they clearly won, name value would make it different, make it difficult. But somebody like, Rafael Fiziev, Benoit Saint-Denis, that are kind of parked in that 9 through 15 range, competitively would make a lot of sense. Just Beneil Dariush, just the problem is you're talking about people in Dariush and Saint-Denis that have headlined lots of events, like they've been title contenders. So
yeah, if you're someone like
competitively,
yes, Saint-Denis probably past this point. These guys, like way past these guys at this point. But like, say you want to be busy, you're Saint-Denis.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you much? And besides, like money wise, but wouldn't you much rather fight a Michael Chandler than Fareed Ziam?
Yes.
And besides, but like, not just the name value, but like you get the big name without any of the risk versus the guy who's a small name and a huge risk. But hey, shout out to Michael Chandler who just won the other night. RFA beating Chad Mendes in a wrestling match.
Oh, so are we going to talk about the official mascot of the Shillen and Duffy show appearing at RAF? Bo Nickel versus Yoel Romero.
I know.
Good to see if that Olympic dream could have been something after all.
I'll tell you something off there. Anyways.
All right. I love the breakdown there, and the interesting thing is, like, even in picking Ziam, you kind of drew out and acknowledged Sadykhov's best route to victory. Like, if he can take Ziam down, Ziam's takedown defense has been inconsistent. Like early on, like his first, say, 4 fights, like Madge, Malarkey, McKinney, who was the other one? Luigi Vendramini. I was like, okay, this is your classic French Moroccan kickboxer. He'll give us some fun fights, but he'll never be a contender. Like, he's going to be too easy to take down. That hasn't proven true. Or again, he wouldn't be on a 5-fight win streak in this division. I do think Sadykhov could take him down, but as you pointed out, Sadykhov's top control isn't always great. Maybe training with Merab has like rubbed off on him after a couple of years. I really, really want to take the slight upset here and take Sadykhov. He basically need to take Ziam down in 2 rounds and either, do a couple mat returns or stay busy enough on top that Ziam couldn't make up, the deficit during whatever time they were on the feet. That's basically all he'd need to do. But I keep underestimating Ziam, and fights that I think should be bad style matchups for him, he keeps coming out on top. And I mean, he killed Matt Frivola, and I think I picked Frivola in that fight. He handled Mike Davis. Like, if he can handle Mike Davis, he can handle Nazim Sadykhov, because they do a lot of the same things well, but Davis is probably faster, more athletic, and a better offensive wrestler. So give me Ziam by decision as well. Like, yeah, I'm slowly getting on board the Ferez Ziam train. Next up at UFC 323 is a women's flyweight matchup between Maycee Barber and Karine Silva. Barber, the 27-year-old Colorado native, is 14-2 overall. She's 9-2 since joining the UFC out of season 2 of Dana White's Contender Series. She's on a 6-fight win streak dating back 4 full years at this point. That's the good news. The bad news is that, assuming all goes well, knock on wood, she'll be stepping into the cage for the first time in over a year and a half on Saturday. Last time we saw her was at UFC 299 all the way back last March. She won a unanimous decision over Caitlin Sermonara that, on top of being her 6th straight win, seemed to propel her from prospect to contender for good. She was in the title picture, and everything has sort of fallen apart since then. She was supposed to meet Rose Namajunas last summer. Barber was forced to withdraw from that fight for medical reasons. And then even more alarmingly, she was supposed to fight this May against Erin Blanchfield, and Barber first missed weight, second looked absolutely ghastly subjectively on the scale during the weight cut, and then was not medically cleared and was scratched from the fight literally in the middle of the card. So despite being on a 6-fight win streak, fair to say that Barber has plenty to prove here, and she will need to prove it against Karine Silva, 31-year-old Brazilian, 19-5 overall, 5-1 since joining the UFC out of season 5 of Dana White's Contender Series. She's coming in off a win. She fought most recently back in August at UFC 319, where she won a unanimous decision over Dione Barboza. That allowed her to bounce back from her first and thus far only UFC loss, which was almost exactly a year ago against Viviane Araújo at UFC 309. Odds on this one, I'll ask you about it. Your favorite is minus 180, underdog plus 150. Who are they?
Maycee's the favorite.
You are correct. Barber minus 180, Silva plus 150. I don't like this line. Here's the thing. Like, this would be a sensible line if Barber had fought 4 months ago.
Sure, and I get it.
Like, if this was the Barber who had beaten Caitlin Sermonara, formerly Chikagian, and it was 4 or 5 months from that, Barber as an almost 2-1 favorite makes sense. Here, unless this line reflects people saying, well, she's either going to show up and be better than Karine Silva, or the fight's not going to be on at all, and I'll get my money back.
That's true. That's funny.
But here's the thing. The problem with Barber, again, withdrawing from 2 straight fights with medical issues, the most recent of them obviously and directly related to her weight cut, is that her game is always run on having just a super high motor. Like, if she can't do that, like if she weighs in at 126 on the dot, but looks like death warmed over on the scale and just can't make that game go for more than 5 or 6 minutes, she's no longer a top 10 contender. And also ran in this division. And that's an open question at this point. Barber and Silva have some general similarities. Like, they're both similar size, similar build, similar basic skill sets. They're both people that I overstated their athleticism early on in their UFC run. And it was to the point where every time we previewed a Maycee Barber fight, I would say that she's a good athlete. And then 3 minutes later, you would say that she's an average or mediocre athlete. And it wasn't so much that we were disagreeing as I just needed to refine my language. She's just a high motor, very physical fighter. And the comparison I keep coming back to is just like a women's flyweight Diego Sanchez, where she's not the most technical wrestler or grappler, but she just sort of overwhelms people with kind of her pace, aggression, physicality on the ground, kind of a bully. She's not the most technical striker on the feet, but she makes pretty good headway just by coming forward at her best, throwing good volume, pretty good at, even though she's not the fastest on her feet, she's gotten better at sort of cutting off the cage, walking people to the fence. She's nasty against the fence. These are all things that I assume Maycee Barber is still good at. And like I say, if she is the fighter she was, then yeah, she's rightfully a minus 180, even minus 200 favorite, because she's probably a little bigger than Silva and as good or slightly better at most of the same things. But that's such a huge question mark. And so much of it just comes down to the subjective things, like how bad she looked, like just kind of revisiting her last 5 fights, like watching them, like reading up on my own take on them ahead. And after the fact, I ran into her, like just the photos and footage of her weigh-ins, earlier this year. And just, she looked absolutely terrible. And because of that, I mean, if there's a bet on this fight doesn't make it to the cage, don't make that bet. That's just ghoulish and terrible. Like, don't make it in your financial best interest for terrible things to happen. But I'm leaning towards the upset here because I just feel like I have a better handle on who Karine Silva is as a fighter right now. And even though Silva is actually 3 or 4 years older than Barber and actually has more fights than her, she feels like more of a prospect to me. She's still someone who at this level seems to be figuring out her game. I expect Silva to be at least as good as she was earlier this year when we see her in the cage again. She seems to be very much in her physical prime. And while Barber, again, might be a more skilled and talented fighter than Silva on paper, I don't trust her to be able to win fights the Maycee Barber way until I see her do it again. So give me Silva by decision here.
Dude, you got me super excited for this fight. I mean, I kind of was already into it, but yeah, there's a lot of question marks. And yeah, I definitely feel like this is Maycee's fight to lose. At their peak, their prime, I would favor Maycee pretty good. But yeah, there's a lot to think about. The one thing I love about Maycee Barber is she's still only 27. Does she have some concerns? Is there some, why is she struggling to make a weight as she just matured in her body and she should be moving up to 135? Yeah, that could be the case. And I mean, I know she's had a lot of health issues. I remember when she was in the hospital for like a week or something in the past. And but we've seen fighters. One I can think of is Mackenzie Dern, was someone who struggled away and then something just changed and maybe she gets the right nutritionist, she takes her training a little bit more serious, whatever. As far as her fighting recently, her last 2 fights in the cage, she looked great in both of them.
Yes.
And against good competition. Like she beat Caitlin Chikagian and who was
and she hammered Amanda Hebus before that.
Amanda Hebus, yeah, like that was the best performance of her career.
Oh yeah,
Amanda Hebus, and then even Maycee. I mean, to me, she looked as good as you possibly can in a Caitlin Chikagian fight.
That's a great way to put it.
She's similar to the person she was supposed to fight, Erin Blanchfield, and where she isn't the best athlete, but more on the of the elite fighters. Like she's not a good athlete for an elite fighter, because that's what I think she is. She's a little flat-footed, a little plodding, but she's super tough when she's in the cage. She fights out of both stances. She's got high output on the striking. Her striking has really come along. She's technically sound. She does need to change up her rhythm a little bit when she attacks. And again, I'm going back a while because it's been a while since we've seen her fight. So, but she pressures her opponents. She's best when she battles in the pocket. She's got this very like gritty style to her, bit of a brawler. Similar to Erin Blanchfield, she has a mean streak in her. She she loves hurting women. She hits hard, and again, she's probably just coming into her part, her power. She's got a lot of kicks. That's something she's added a lot of front kicks, question mark kicks. She can fight out both stances. She does eat a lot of shots, and some of that is because she drops her hands and she isn't a good enough athlete to avoid the shots. She also pulls her head straight back. You mentioned, like, I like the Diego Sanchez thing, because, like, when you watch Diego Sanchez, like, nothing jumped out. You're like, wow, this guy's really good. But then he just beat people's asses, and that's kind of what she does, because she does like being the bully and marching forward. Like she's very physically strong. When she gets in the clinch, she can out muscle females in there. She did one against Miranda Maverick, someone who's physically strong, and she did well in the clinch. Her offensive wrestling has really greatly improved. She's still not the best defensive wrestler, and some of that has to do when she opens up, she overthrows, which leads her to be taken down. She has struggled in the past getting off the bottom. Andrea Lee had moments of holding her. I mean, Jessica Eifert was a really long time, but she had times holding her down. But if she's on top, she's scary. She's got mean ground and pound. She's had weight issues, obviously, but her cardio has been good. I mean, I think about her come from behind win against Miranda Maverick. And then this one has been in my notes for a while. I'm going to leave it. She's almost insanely tough. And I always think about the fight that was insanely tough is when she tore ACL against Roxanne Modafferi seconds into the fight and still went the distance. Yeah. Karine Silva, she's a well-rounded fighter. She's a kickboxer, fast hands, and nice straight shots. There's a lot of combinations. Got a big kicking game, likes deep kicks, good high kick. She's a solid wrestler, likes body lock takedowns, chains takedowns together well. She's a good overall grappler, good back takes. She has 9 submission wins. She can get some subs off her back. She will look for submissions off her back instead of scramble feet, so that's concerning. So as far as prediction goes, all the outside stuff is what's giving me pause about Barber. Mm-hmm. And it's the injuries, obviously the weight thing. I just can't imagine the situation she was in last time, that she just besides the I don't know what I'm trying to say. There had to be a lot of embarrassment besides missing an opportunity. I mean, people were killing her. Yeah.
Dude, I was killing her, and I'll jump out and say it. Like, she missed weight badly and was forced to withdraw, having pretty obviously gotten some cosmetic enhancement within the last year. Yeah. And you know what? Given her history of weight issues and moving it towards age 30, adding 1.5 pounds of uncuttable weight may not have been the best idea.
Is that how much?
Maybe do the Joanna Jędrzejczyk thing and do that after you retire. I don't know.
Yeah. Shame on me for not knowing. Is that how much they weigh? I have no idea. But I can't imagine with the embarrassment and everything she got that she wouldn't have made drastic lifetime change. She has to know. I know they're saying she had a seizure and all. I don't know what happened, and I don't think we'll ever really know what happened. But if that is true, then there has to be some drastic. You can't keep doing things always where you have. At least a normal person would make those changes.
Right.
And I think a normal person.
You made a good point bringing up the fact that Mackenzie Dern has completely overcome those issues. And whatever we may say about Maycee Barber, she never missed weight by 7 pounds.
No.
No,
I know she missed weight to get Erin Blanchard, right? Like 1 pound or something.
Yeah. But she missed by like 1.5 pounds, not 7 pounds.
Yeah.
Like Dern has. Yeah.
And there's also things. I mean, there's other things. I mean, I know she's trained with Ben Askren, and Ben Askren had his big health issues that, and I know it wasn't the same time, but so that concerns me. That obviously I know she trained with Duke Rufus. Obviously, that's a terrible tragedy. So it's all those things that are making me concerned about her. But then I just keep going back to you're gonna make changes. You're not gonna ignore this. And in the cage, I think this is a really good matchup for her. I think she's better than Karine Silva ever. Karine Silva's tough, really tough, and she's good. I think Maycee's faster than her. I think Maycee's maybe Karine hits harder, but I think Maycee's a better offensive wrestler. I think she has meaner ground and pound. I think she's young. Obviously, I know she's younger. I don't think she's younger. I know she's younger. I think she has better upside. Like her kicks, I think I think the grappling might be even, but I think Barber sticks and moves. I think Silva struggles catching up with her. Give me Barber by decision. Honestly, I'm gonna be bold just because what the hell. I'm gonna lock this as my lock of the night. Give me just because of how the question marks. Let's stop being like take the easy one. I'm gonna go with like I wasn't planning on this one. I was gonna do one much later in the card. But give me Maycee Barber as my lock of the night. Screw it. I believe in you, Maycee.
I love that both of our locks of the night are against the other's pick. So yeah,
I think you gotta force her to do that one on this one. I was like, yeah, let's go against each other hard again.
Lightweights are up next on the UFC 323 undercard as Terrance McKinney squares off against Chris Duncan. McKinney, the 31-year-old Washington State native, is 17-7 overall. He is 7-4 since joining the UFC as a veteran of Season 3 of Dana White's Contender Series. He is coming in on a 2-fight win streak. Since losing to Esteban Ribovics last May, he has wins over Damir Hadzovic in February, and then in his most recent outing in June at UFC 317, a 55-second guillotine submission of Slava Barshov. So McKinney, looking to make it 3 in a row, needs to get past Duncan in order to do so. 32-year-old Scott is 14-2 overall. He is 5-1 since joining the UFC as a 2-time veteran of the Contender Series. He lost on Season 5, won on Season 6, has been in the UFC ever since, and is on a 3-fight win streak dating back a little over a year. He's already fought twice this year, guillotining Jordan Vucenic in March, and then in August at UFC on ESPN Tyra versus Park, he won a unanimous decision over Mateusz Rebecki. He's looking for his 4th straight win here, and he is favored to get it, nearly 2-1 favorite. Duncan is minus 180, McKinney plus 150.
Wow. Shout out to Chris Duncan.
Shout out to Chris Duncan. I don't even know if it's irrelevant whether you believe in Terrance McKinney or not. Like, Terrance McKinney is like lightning. Like, I'm not a professional fighter, but, you know, I've done plenty of competitive stuff. I don't see how you prepare for Terrance McKinney except in the same way you prepare for lightning. You know, like, don't be the tallest thing in view. Don't stick a metal umbrella straight up as you're walking across a golf course. Like, just basic shit like that. Because aside from that, he's just kind of a force of nature. This is his 25th professional fight, his 12th UFC fight. He has been past the midpoint of the second round exactly once in his entire career, and it was in like his 3rd fight. He hasn't been past the first round in the UFC in 2.5 years. This shouldn't be possible in 2020's MMA. Fighters are supposed to be too well-rounded, too skillful, too defensively sound, especially in arguably the best division in the entire sport. McKinney's streak of just finishing or getting finished within 90 seconds is just absolutely bonkers. The cool thing about, there are lots of cool things about Terrance McKinney, but the cool thing is that it's not just savage knockouts. The way he has tapped some people out in under a minute without a club and sub, just found a way to get them to the ground or get their back and choke them out in like 40 seconds is just absolutely bananas. Obviously, it comes at the expense of 2 things. It comes at the expense of any kind of cardio staying power. Like, he comes out like his hair is on fire. And then that offense also comes at the expense of defensive fundamentals. Like, he gets clocked himself or, you know, hurt and choked out almost as often as, you know, as he wins. Duncan is capable of quick strike offense. Like, obviously he's not the maniac McKinney is. He's not the athlete McKinney is, but he's been a pleasant surprise since he's been in the UFC. The guy's 5-1. I thought he was borderline UFC material at best when he got to the UFC. And in hindsight, I was probably put off by the fact that he got knocked out by Slava Barshov, and then Barshov turned out just not to be that good. But in hindsight, if Duncan and Barshov fought 10 times, I think Duncan probably wins 7 or 8 of them. Or actually, he probably loses that one and wins the next 9 once he realizes how bad Barshov is at wrestling. I do like Duncan here because he's a smart, well-coached fighter. He's been at American Top Team for a couple of years now. He knows exactly what McKinney's going to come out and do. He knows exactly what McKinney's good at. And this sounds reductive and oversimplifying, but to a certain extent, what he needs to do is survive the first 3 minutes of the fight. That's kind of what it boils down to. Like if he can survive the first 3 minutes of the fight, McKinney slows down enormously. And if he can survive the first 3 minutes of the fight without just completely going into a shell and going into like, double dime defense prevent mode, like it's, there's 4 seconds left in an NFL game, there's also the chance that he catches McKinney with just a clean right cross as McKinney comes flailing in and knocks McKinney out. That being the case, I understand why the line is what it is. And yeah, I'm leaning Duncan here. If I'm wrong, I'm going to be hilariously wrong, and I'm going to be hilariously wrong within the first 2 minutes, and I'm okay with that. But I think I'm right on this one. Give me Duncan to weather the initial storm, practice lightning safety, and put McKinney away early in the second round. Duncan by TKO round 2.
Yeah, this is a fight. We've previewed a lot of Terrance McKinney fights, and we've
spent a lot more time talking about Terrance McKinney fights than Terrance McKinney has spent fighting.
Yeah, that's a good point. I always feel like I don't have a firm grasp on Terrance McKinney, but I'm like, nobody can, because it's going to be, oh my God, this guy is a little Francis Ngannou. He just, holy crap. And even submission, like, oh, he's got this like Charles Oliveira game in him too. Or like, oh, he completely folded and what a waste of a talent. And I mean, he's a southpaw. He's crazy fast starter. He works from distance, and then suddenly he just explodes. When he moves inside, he throws hard. He works the body, which I like, but he throws big shots, massive power. He can knock out anybody, but he overthrows and extends on his shots because of that. And because he's looking to end the fight with a goal, he's open to get tagged himself. He can make the mistake to also throw from his hips, which also leave him to be counted. Now, throwing from your hips, it's harder to see it coming, but it's also easier to beat you at the point of contact. Yeah. I've said this before about him. It's not just necessarily getting caught or something. I've said I believe he's a front runner. If it doesn't end early, he tends to lose, and he loses bad. And it's funny because we break down fights, and I'm not scared to pick against somebody. I'm not scared to make a bold claim. I'm not scared to make upsets. I don't care if I lose. Like I've said this a million times. If I make a pick wrong, okay. A lot of times I don't even root for my picks. I root for the most exciting thing to talk about. But one thing I don't like saying, I don't like calling people front runners, because I have such a high respect for even if I don't pick a guy, I think I still have very high respect for their toughness and there are modern gladiator type guys. I hate saying it, so I don't say it often, and I want to be wrong about this. Like, I want Terrance McKinney to lose the first round, be in a back and forth second round, and come back in the third and dig deep and have this moment and win a close fight by split decision because he had to have a rally late, or he drops a guy late in the third or something like that. So I just want to say that when I say like front runner, I don't feel good about saying that, but I believe it's true. He's a good kicker. He likes push kicks. He's got some big high kicks. He likes flying knees. He'll close the distance and land strikes inside the clinch. He's a junior college All-American wrestler, and he's good at it. He's got fast entries. He cuts the corner really well. He does better to move position on the ground. He gets stoppages, a lot of stoppages from ground and pound. He hits really hard on the ground. And you mentioned his submission game. He's got 9 subs on his record. The problem is he's gassed out in the past and before. Again, I think it has a lot more to do with him. Obviously, some of it has to be being super explosive, but I think it has to do with being a front runner. I think it's a little bit of a panic or something. I don't know what it is, but you also have to worry about his chin. He's been knocked out a bunch of times. When he gets knocked out, it's bad. Like I always go back to the Esman Ribovich fight where he was high kicked, been knocked out bad, and he doesn't really react to strikes well. Chris Duncan, he's not a good athlete, but he makes up for it by honestly being the complete opposite of Terrance McKinney. He is the guy that's not going to panic when he's getting hurt. He's going to find a way to win. He's one of the toughest dudes alive. Now, I'm not saying McKinney's not tough, so I want to be clear. I'm not saying he's. Yeah. I'm just kind of moved on to my next point. He's got really good output on the feet. A bit of like your stand your ground type striker. Likes to be in the pocket. Likes a close battle, throwing tight hooks, landing big shots. He loves the war. He like he's best in a war. He's got good power. Really steps in the shot. He has 7 TKOs. He mixes punches and kicks together well. He's got a good kicking game. Throws a lot of kicks, hard body kicks, hard calf kicks. Now his defense sucks, and that's really concerning against a guy like Terrance McKinney. He doesn't move his head enough. He drops his hands. He's taking tons of damage. So I'm worried that at any moment his chin can crack. And if anybody can crack your chin, it's Terrance McKinney. And if his chin cracks and he doesn't have that insane durability that he's shown, his whole game will fall apart. He's a guy that he needs his durability to be his number one weapon. He's a decent offensive wrestler. He's not the best defensive wrestler, but he can catch a submission. He had a great guillotine against Oki.
Then another one against Vucenic. Yeah. Like 2 in a row.
But that said, I still think his grappling's overrated. And early in the fight, I actually would favor McKinney in the grappling. But he has great cardio. So if you told me 2 years ago that Duncan and McKinney was fighting each other, and you said, "Hey, make a betting line," I probably would have said Terrance McKinney -400. Duncan was a guy that I didn't view as a high level, lower level UFC talent, but he has turned into one of my favorite guys because of this style, and I just love this like overcoming mentality. I still think this fight is hard to predict. And I don't feel comfortable taking a guy at -200 against Terrance McKinney because I feel like the results are so extreme. It's either McKinney runs right through him. If we get a 30-second blitzing, it's McKinney. Oh my God, he looks incredible. Or Duncan weathers the early storm, pressures McKinney, and breaks him under pressure. Every second the fight moves on. You know what it reminds me? I'm going to give you an old reference. It has a Evan Tanner versus Phil Baroni feel to it. Ooh. The reason why I remember this fight, I know they fought twice, but I don't remember which it was, the first fight or the second fight. My sister Alicia, this is my oldest sister. She's not a fight fan, and she was with me for something. I was watching the fights, and the fight's about to happen, and I just said, "Who do you think's gonna win?" And it's like, Evan Tanner was tough looking, but then you got Phil Baroni. He's jacked up. He's looking at and a lot of right now people looking up, they don't know what I'm talking about. And she goes, "I'll take Phil. I'll take this guy, Phil Baroni." And she's like, "Who are you gonna take?" I said, "I'll make a deal with you." I go, "I don't care how the fight is going." I don't remember what exact time I said, but I'm like, "I don't care how the fight is going, but if the fight is still going on and hits the 3-minute mark of the fight." I say 3. I might have said 2.5 minutes. I might have said 2 minutes. I don't know what I said. I said, I will take the other guy if it reaches that far. And she's like, "Deal." And Phil Baroni is busting up Evan Tanner like you wouldn't believe. He is bleeding it. And then he got to like 3 minutes, and Phil Baroni started to slow down, and Evan Tanner took over. And it was, I think it was like a first round stoppage for Tanner. I mean, this is going way back. That's
first fight,
almost,
late first round. Yep.
I mean, I don't know how far back I'm going, but that might be 20 years. It was a long time ago, 15, 18 years.
And that was before Tanner did the same thing to David Terrell, and kind of like his great moment. So, you were already on the ball.
Yeah. So I know I'm going back like 20 something years, maybe over 20 years. I don't know how long it was.
Oh, yeah. It's like that was 2003. So,
2003. So, yeah, there you go. So
22 years.
That's what this fight feels like to me. I think Duncan gets cracked, but I don't think he folds. I think he slowly works himself back into the fight. I think he slowly pressures. I think he starts landing some hard shots himself on McKinney. McKinney, instead of moving forward, starts backing up, and Duncan just starts overwhelming, and it gets worse and worse. The first round still might even go for McKinney, but the whole second half of the first round is Duncan, and then we all gonna have that moment where even everyone scored McKinney, we all who's been around, who's watched fights go, yeah, Duncan's got this. Did you see that moment? See that little switch right there? I think it's gonna happen. Give me Duncan by second round TKO.
Next up at UFC 323, and at least as the card is constituted as of the beginning of fight week, the top prelim is a lightweight contest between Grant Dawson and Manuel Torres. Dawson, the 31-year-old Nebraska native fighting out of Florida, is 23-2-1 overall. He's 11-1-1 since joining the UFC out of the very first season of Dana White's Contender Series. He's on a 3-fight win streak dating back a little over 2 years. He's already fought once this year. It was at UFC 311 back in January, where he won a 3-round decision over Diego Ferreira. Prior to that, he had wins over Rafa Garcia and Joe Selecki. So he's looking to make it 4 in a row, maybe finally turn the corner from eternal fringe contender into actual factor in the title picture. But in order to do any of those things, he will need to get past the man who calls himself El Loco. Torres, 30-year-old Mexican, 16-3 overall, 4-1 since joining the UFC out of season 5 of the Contender Series. He won his last time out. It was a quick first-round knockout of Drew Dober at UFC on ESPN Moreno versus Urseg back in March. That allowed him to bounce back from his first UFC defeat, which was against Ignacio Bahamondes a little over a year ago. Odds on this one favor Dawson, and he's a greater than 2-1 favorite. He's out there around minus 220 right now. Torres plus 180. Keith, I'm definitely going to flip this one to you first. I'm going to sort of prompt you with a question. Grant Dawson is 11-1-1 in the UFC, and yeah, he wasted some time early on trying to make 145 for whatever reason, but he's 11-1-1 in the UFC. Why don't we talk more about this guy? Why is he still buried on prelims?
Dude, it's so funny. I mean, why don't we get to it? It's his style. It's his very heavy grounds, and it's not just being a topside wrestler. I mean, we've had guys who are topside wrestlers become popular, but it's the John Fitch style where it's never really exciting. It's not. He doesn't have a personality that backs up. He's just nothing stands out with him. He's like, he doesn't say anything outlandish. He's a very like.
He's very Nebraska.
Yeah, just like looks like he looks like when you go to a wrestling tournament, 50% of the bracket it looks like this guy,
Big cauliflower ear and a free haircut.
So I know Laura Sanko always talks him up, so shout out to her. She's been on the bandwagon. Yeah, you're right. This guy should be fighting ranked opponents, and honestly, he probably beats a lot of them. He probably beats a lot of guys that are. All right. I mean, right now, if Grant, I know he's not ranked, but I'm saying name wise, if Grant Dawson went against Michael Chandler right now, wouldn't you favor Grant Dawson? I know you keep bringing up a joke, but how about him versus Hanato Moicano?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you favor Grant Dawson?
I would. Like, Moicano would basically have to tap him off his back.
Yeah, and that's a no tape study, not fair. Like, we don't really make those kind of predictions, but like Dan Hooker, I would favor him over Dan Hooker.
He's kind of the American equivalent of like the second tier Dagestani fighters. He's like a Merbek Taisimov, Rustam Khabilov type.
Sure.
Where like he's a super, super good fighter, but there's no sizzle. So he was always going to have kind of an uphill climb.
Ulan Bekov.
Yeah. There you go.
I've always liked Grant Dawson. I mean, he's huge. Well, first of all, it's crazy that he used to fight at 145. We're trying to make 145 because dude's huge. He's a big guy for the weight class. Not a great striker at all. He's still very stiff on the feet. Throws a lot of arm punches. Does a lot of like body work, which I do like. But I like his stepping knees. He throws a lot of kicks. He's got some good calf kicks. I always go back to like the Narimani and the Mark Madsen fight. So that was like his best striking of his career, that like little period. but he still has really bad defense. He keeps his chin too high. I've said this before. He overreacts to getting hit. I swear, one fight. I give him what fight was. He was getting hit. He was like almost spinning every time he got hit. I'm like, what is going on? Like, he needs to fix that. And you got to be worried about his chin. I mean, he was knocked out by Bobby Green. I mean, it was a couple of years back, but Bobby Green isn't really known for being a power puncher. But still, his striking, all his striking he does, and he does strike a little bit more than when he first came on the scene. But his striking really sets up his wrestling entries. He's got nice timing on his entries. He's relentless to get the fight to the ground. Good hip control, good ground game. His ground game is really like off the charts. Good top game, smothering top game. He's one of these guys. He thinks control more than looking for submissions and doing damage. He has no issue on stalling on top, and he advances position well on the ground. He kind of is a 2025 version of Jake Shields, and Jake Shields had a hell of a run with beating a lot of really good Strikeforce champion and fought for a UFC title. Yep. If Grant Dawson was around 10 years ago instead of now, he would have fought for a UFC title or whatever years, 12 years ago, whatever it was. He's got a tough fight though. Manuel Torres is a good fighter. He's big for the weight class. He's long and lanky. He's a very good striker. Great output on the feet. He kind of sits back, and then just suddenly blitzes forward, kind of like Yoel Romero style. He's got quick hands. He's got a nice jab. He has serious power. He's got a nice kicking game. He uses teep kicks to kind of keep his distance. I don't know. Sometimes with teep kicks, I'm like, is that a good idea to do it against Grant Torres? Because it's going to help you keep distance. You want to stay one, but it's also like, do you want to throw kicks up the middle that he can catch? So I don't know. He doesn't need to improve his striking defense. He still stands a little tall. That's why he was hurt by Chris Duncan and Ignacio Bonja on Mondays. He isn't much of an offensive wrestler. He shoots from the outside, and his shots are bad because he shoots too far away. He can get some body lock takedowns. He has a good grappler. He's got some slick back takes. He's got 7 subs on his record. He subbed Chris Duncan, which is obviously a win that is aged really well. I am worried about his cardio. He never really goes deep into fights. So I think this fight is an intriguing fight because while we talked about how underrated or overlooked Dawson is, I feel like Torres is an underrated fighter. He's a good guy in the division. Is he on Grant Dawson's level? No. I mean, I favor him on the feet. The problem is I don't favor almost anybody on the ground with Dawson. I wouldn't be surprised if this fight looks like the Bobby Green fight and Torres just starches him in seconds. But I feel like that's it. Like, I feel like every second that the fight goes deeper and Dawson's going to close his distance, he's going to get to his clinch, he's going to use his size well. I know Torres is a big guy, but like Dawson's thicker and grind on him, get his takedowns, control him on top, maybe take his back, and kind of do a cheaper version of Merab, where he's just kind of not necessarily the style of Merab has in the pace, but more of the, I don't care if I'm doing a lot of damage, I'm just frustrating you. And that's like the worst part of it. And I think Dawson does that for 15 minutes straight and he wins again. Give me Grant Dawson by decision. And I'm pretty so anyways, I was going to say earlier that this was going to be my lock, but I switched to Maycee Barber, but also like, I'm glad I did because he's a pretty big favorite. So I want him in the big boldest thing.
You kind of drew the routes to victory for Torres, and I agree. Dawson is slept on, maybe literally, because he's not the most exciting fighter, but Torres at this point is just kind of getting overlooked for how good he is. And Torres's win over Chris Duncan, the thing that gives me pause is that, yeah, he tapped out Duncan, but that started with Duncan taking him down, and then he just swept him in a flash, took his back, and had the choke locked up really quick. So if you're someone that's getting ready to fight Manuel Torres and you're thinking of wrestling him, that's something that's got to be in the back of your mind. But if we're being honest, that's something that would be much, much harder to do to Grant Dawson than to Chris Duncan. Like,
way different.
At this point,
grapplers.
Yeah, Dawson has 2 career losses. They both were him just getting caught in the first minute of a fight and clocked by, a reasonably hard hitter. We've not seen him get out wrestled or out grappled basically at all. And that is in several years now of fighting very good ground fighters. Like he's fought Diego Ferreira, Mark Madsen, like even people like Jared Gordon and Ricky Glenn that we don't think of as like lights out grapplers, but are really tough outs on the ground. And
yeah, especially
Dawson's
Gordon.
basically, yeah. And Dawson's kind of wiped all of them in very Shields Fitch fashion. Because of that, yeah, like the line is wide, but on some levels it could be wider because Torres's routes to victory are just low percentage things. Like, sure, he could clock Dawson early, but if that were easy, Dawson wouldn't be 23-2-1 right now. So yeah, Dawson by decision seems like the obvious pick to me as well. The 5-fight main card of UFC 323 begins with a light heavyweight contest between Jan Blachowicz and Bogdan Guskov. Blachowicz, the 42-year-old Pole, is 29-11-1 overall. He is 12-8-1 in the UFC, a run that saw him make it all the way to the title, win the title, and he's lost it. He is now mired in a 3-fight winless streak dating back, well, I mean, for him, because of a couple of injury layoffs, like 3 full years. He hasn't won in 3.5 years, but he's already fought once this year. He fought Carlos Ulberg back in March at UFC Fight Night, Edwards versus Brady, coming out on the wrong decision or the wrong end of a unanimous decision. He's looking to get back in the win column here, prove that at 42, if not the title picture, he is still at least a presence in the division he once ruled, and he needs to get past Guskov in order to do so. Guskov, 33-year-old from Uzbekistan, 18-3 overall, 4-1 in the UFC, and after losing his UFC debut a little over 2 years ago to Volkan Oezdemir, he has rattled off 4 straight wins inside the first 2 rounds. He's already fought once this year. It was back in July at UFC on ABC, Whitaker versus DeRitter, where he picked up easily his best win of his UFC run so far, knocking out Nikita Krylov in the first round. He's looking to build on that, become, honestly, he's a top 10 fighter if he gets past Blachowicz. Your favorite, Keith, is -140. Your underdog +110. Who are they?
Man, Jan is a favorite.
You are correct. Jan Blachowicz, who has not won a fight since May of 2022, is the slight favorite over Bogdan Guskov, who has not lost a fight since September of 2023. This is an image that you will use very often describing a matchup, but this is about as opposite elevators as it gets. Like,
sure.
Tell me who you think wins this one, how the fight plays out, and tell me how wrong I was saying that Bogdan Guskov sucks and he's not going to win any fights in the UFC.
Yeah, I will say I was a little higher on Guskov than you were. I don't know if I was this high. Like he's looked sensational. This is a tough fight. This is a very telling fight for him. This is actually a fight that you know what? All right, side note, I've been doing some a lot of shorts and stuff, just kind of like doing a little different things because I figure we do like the longest show ever. Somebody start doing like some 1-minute stuff, and I posted my shirt. I can also have my own YouTube page, Keith Schillen MMA. Please like and subscribe. Help me out, guys. I might put this as my under the radar fight. And I haven't decided what I was going to do yet, but this is a fight that I'm really intrigued by because the questions about both guys. So Yamho, obviously he's older, and it's like, yeah, he hasn't won in a long time, but he's lost to such good guys. So it's like, it's really, what do we have now? Stylistically, I'm gonna go with when we last seen him fight. Yeah, he switches back and forth, both from orthodox and southpaw. Though I do think he's better in the orthodox stance. He's a kickboxer. He sets up his shots with a lot of hand fighting. We don't see a lot in MMA, which is fun. He keeps everything tight. He targets the body a lot. He obviously has that legendary left hook that he has serious power. He can put anybody out. He generates so much power because I've said this before. I don't know why I keep bringing this guy up. This is the third time I think I brought him up on the card, but on this show. He stays compressed and keeps his base under them, similar to like what a prime Michael Chandler would do. He has a massive list of guys he's knocked out. So he's a very good kickboxer, hard calf kicks. He nearly beat Magomed Ankalaev with just kicking his calves over and over again. He used to be, when he first came on the UFC, he was a fairly one-dimensional fighter, but that has changed. He gets inside now. He grinds inside. He's got some good dirty boxing close. He actually knocks guys out from very close, and he's an underrated wrestler. I mean, I know it was such a long time ago, but he defended his title against Israel Adesanya just by wrestling. Could he have struck with Adesanya? Maybe, but he was much bigger, much stronger, and he's like, I can wrestle, and he also showed his intelligence. And he almost beat Alex Pereira just by wrestling him in their fight. He has a weaker defensive wrestler. I always go back to Glover Teixeira fight. I mean, Glover smoked him on the ground. But, I mean, he can get subs himself, too, though. He subbed Nikita Krylov. So his cardio has been inconsistent, but there's only a 15-minute fight. So I'm not too concerned about his cardio. Gustaf obviously is a striker. He throws straight shots down the pike. He throws a lot of same side attacks, which is so unconventional, but it tends to work with him. What I mean by same side, like he'll like throw his rear straight right and then throw it again the next punch, which we don't see, or leading a lot with your straight right, which we don't see a lot. He does work the body well. I mean, the dude hits wicked hard. I mean, he's got 15 TKOs. Not the best defensive fighter. He does keep his chin a little high in the air. He doesn't move his head enough. He's been hurt in a bunch of fights too. He isn't much of an offensive wrestler, but if he gets on top, he has really mean ground and pound. He's a bad defensive wrestler, and he struggles to get off the bottom. If he's on the bottom, his submission defense is an issue. It was a while ago, but he was quickly subbed by Volkan Oezdemir, who really isn't known for being a high-level grappler. But his submission defense was much better against Billy Elkana, I always say his name. But just being in those situations with Billy Elkana is not a good sign. So I think this is a really fun fight. The problem is, I think I'm completely out on Jan Blachowicz at this point. But on the flip side, Gustaf is so bad on the ground that this is the type of fight he could lose. Blachowicz could lose too, because he's, the years of damage. He hasn't won a fight in so long. I think he's gonna go forward, and I think Gustaf's gonna catch him. I think Gustaf's gonna knock him out. I think we haven't seen that happen to Blachowicz. I think every second the fight goes on, I think it's gonna completely. Actually, I think the deeper the fight goes, the more I start feeling better about Blachowicz. But I don't think it's going to go that deep. I think Blachowicz is slowed down at 42, and that really worried me. Gustaf's one of the hardest hitters in the division. I think he catches them early. I think he puts them out. Give me Gustaf by first round TKO.
Yeah, this is one of the harder fights on the card for me to pick as well, and so much of it really does come down to what Blachowicz has left at age 42. Being 42 by itself doesn't mean that he's completely washed. I mean, he was still champ when he was 39. And what have we seen since then? Yeah, in his last 3 fights, he fought 3 enormous kickboxers and been generally competitive against them. Like, none of those guys have blown him out of the water. Even though Gustaf, he's not as big as Ulberg, Ferreira, Ankalaev. He's not as technical as they are. I can't even say that he's a harder puncher, because Alex Pereira's left hook is one of the nastiest techniques in any combat sport. Yeah. But
yeah,
I'll say that the way Gustaf fights, he is more likely to put Blachowicz's chin on the gunnery range for haymakers than probably any of those 3 guys. Like, he's just not measured. Like, his not being as technical as Pereira or Ulberg or Ankalaev might work in his favor here, because Blachowicz is probably not going to be able to punish him for his defensive lapses. Blachowicz's like leg kicks have always been underrated, and he's apparently still has those. He could give Guskov trouble with that. His wrestling is not what it once was, mostly because he slowed so much, but it's probably still enough to take Guskov down. I'm exactly with you here. Every minute this fight goes on, I feel better about Blachowicz, and that feels weird to say about a 42-year-old man against like a 30-year-old. But yeah, I trust 42-year-old Blachowicz more in the third round of a fight than Guskov. Just Guskov isn't as defensively sound. His cardio is really iffy. I think you're right. I think Guskov probably knocks him out in the first round, but if Blachowicz makes it out of the first 4 minutes of this fight, he probably wins the fight. You know, because if not in the first round, at least by the second round, I could see leg kicks piling up. I could see Guskov starting to get tired. I could see Blachowicz successfully taking him down and probably harming him on the ground if he gets him down there. But I'm with you. I don't think we get there. And that's a little bit of a bummer because it was fun to watch Blachowicz's unlikely rise. Guskov by round 1 KO is the pick here as well. Next up on the UFC 323 main card is a men's bantamweight matchup between former 2-division champ Henry Cejudo and still at least somewhat hot rising prospect Peyton Talbot. Cejudo, the 38-year-old Arizona native, is 16-5 overall. He's 10-5 in the UFC. He is on a 3-fight losing streak, and he, in fact, has not won a fight in over 5 years. And in fact, he has no wins over anybody still on UFC roster.
I love this.
So, shall we move on to the next fight? No. All right. He has already fought one.
Can we just have a second? Like, Henry said, what are you doing, man? He's good on the mic. He's got podcasts. He could coach wrestling. He can coach MMA. Like, he has so many other avenues of victory. Like, I mean, avenue of income and stuff. Like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah. If you are an MMA fighter who has the option to be a former MMA fighter who can still make money in combat sports, that is the dream right there.
Yeah.
Because the number of fighters who make enough money to retire uncomfortably just on their purses, you could probably count on two hands. So to be someone like Cejudo, who can basically write his own checks doing wrestling clinics, could podcast in his spare time, could
start his own team.
He could start his own team.
I know he's out there in Arizona with
Fight Ready, which is basically falling apart.
But he could just have his own, and like you see him, you know, people have gone and trained with him, and like he's almost taken on like a head coaching.
Yeah, like the Pitbull brothers basically operated a pop-up gym out of his gym for a couple of years there.
Just start your own, like open up your own gym, dude.
Yeah,
and I think he'd be one of the best coaches around. Anyways.
Agreed. So I mean, there are two problems. One that I just laid out there: Cejudo has lost 3 in a row, while he's 10-5 in the UFC. Again, he literally has 0 wins over anybody that's still on UFC roster. The other problem is that he has fought 4 times in the last 6 years. Like he's, as Keith kind of alluded to, a combination of outside the cage distractions and injuries have turned him into a once-a-year fighter at best. But last time we saw him was in the headliner of UFC Fight Night 252 back in February, where he faced Song Yadong and ended up losing a technical decision when the fight had to be stopped after the 3rd round, or had to be stopped between the 3rd and 4th rounds because Cejudo's left eye was jacked up. At any rate, he had, he appeared to be on his way to losing the fight. At any rate, it ended in a technical decision. He's not losing to bad fighters, but good grief. I'm already breaking down this fight and I haven't even introduced the other fighter yet. Okay. Peyton Talbot, 27-year-old Nevada native, 10-1 overall, 4-1 in the UFC. He's coming in off a win He faced Felipe Lima at UFC 317 back in June, won a unanimous decision that allowed him to bounce back from his first career loss thus far, or first career loss, only career loss thus far, which was back in January at UFC 311, where he lost via decision pretty soundly to Hani Barcelos. So Talbot still looking to prove that he is part of the future of this division, possibly a future title contender, gets at least the biggest name opponent of his career by far in Cejudo. Keith, who do you think the favorite is?
I think Talbot's the favorite.
You're correct. Talbot is the favorite. What number does the line start with?
Yeah, so just to pull back the curtain, right before we started talking about this, I said, man, the line could be crazy. I said, this could be a pickup fight or like somebody, and obviously I was talking about Talbot. It could be like a negative 900 favorite. I'm going to guess it's more that way. I'm going to say Talbot's like negative 400, something stupid like that.
It's not that bad, but it's pretty wide. Talbot minus 275, Cejudo plus 225 coming back. There are a couple of issues here. On the one hand, you look at Cejudo, he is a former 2-division champ. He was, at least at one point in his career, a super elite fighter. And while he's on a 3-fight losing streak, all 3 of the fighters are at least very good. I mean, Aljamain Sterling, Merab Dvalishvili, champ, Song Yadong, perennial top 10 fighter. Sure. And he was at least competitive in all of them.
It could be the top 5. All 3 guys could be the top 5 in the division.
Yes, absolutely. So there are 2 problems here. One, he's 38, and while he doesn't appear to be a complete wreck physically, you kind of led right into what I was going to say. There's every possibility that he's checked out mentally, and
as he should be.
As he should be. But you know what? If you are still a former champ making former champ purses, the temptation has to be there to punch that clock one more time. But 135 was always Cejudo's worst weight class anyway. Like, he's short and stocky for 125. At 135, sure, he is at a substantial, like, Merab.
If he had a normal size head, he'd be a 115-pound fighter.
If he had a normal size head, he'd be 4'11". Like,
that's true.
Like, Merab, Merab beat him in the fight. Merab also could have blocked his jump shot with ease, and Merab's not a big 135er. Like, I don't really want to go back and pick through Cejudo's wins and his title reign. Like, I already feel bad every time I go after his amateur wrestling credentials, but just, yeah, like, his prime was like 2017, and it was pretty brief, and it was at 125 pounds. Like, it's been a while since he showed us much to get excited about. Having said all that, the version of Cejudo that was a step behind Song Yadong, but, again, was generally competitive until the eye injury that ended it, could still give Talbot fits. Like, looking back, Talbot's lost to Hani Barcelos, and keep in mind, Barcelos is a guy even more than Cejudo that we thought was aged, shop worn, well on his way to being shot, and really kind of showed Talbot up. And in fairness,
we've been doing this show so long. Hani Barcelos went through the most underrated guy. He's the top 5 talent to also shot and worn. That's how long we've been doing this.
Looking back, because I rewatched Barcelos versus Talbot, just kind of getting ready for this, and it wasn't exactly the same in the X's and O's, but the whole vibe of it just reminded me of Strickland versus Adesanya, where, yeah, obviously Adesanya had tons more experience than Talbot, but it just looked as though Talbot had never fought a tough, experienced guy who just did a couple of fundamental things well and stuck to his game plan. And you talked earlier on this show about being reluctant to call a fighter a front runner. I've also said many times that when we talk about a fighter just kind of quitting or wilting, it's not that they're afraid of getting punched. It's just that they've run out of ideas. You know, like I'm being presented something in this fight that I'm not prepared for, and the time to fix this was 3 months ago in camp. Like there's nothing my coaches can yell at me between rounds that's going to fix this right now. I kind of feel that that's what that was, but Cejudo, even at 38, still has pretty fast hands. Still, he doesn't throw as much overall volume, but he still throws in combination. His MMA wrestling has always been overrated, but it's always been overrated, but it's not disappeared. It's not like he's completely abandoned it like a lot of wrestlers do. He has the tools to at least give Talbot a serious fight, and you know, who knows, maybe spring the upset, you know, or at least frustrate him and show how much Talbot still needs to work on his game before he's actually ready for current top 10 talents. But the other possibility is that Talbot just makes Cejudo look small and slow and old. And that's what I'm leaning towards, because Talbot, I mean, he throws so much volume that unless Cejudo does something big, he's just going to lose rounds by default. Talbot's just going to bury him under an avalanche of strikes. Like, I don't think he finishes Cejudo. Like, Cejudo's, if the people Cejudo's been fighting haven't finished him, except for Demetrius Johnson a million years ago, I don't think Talbot's going to be the next one to do it. Cejudo's going to be around at the end of this one, but he's going to get outlanded like 3-1 and just kind of look defeated at the end of it is my pick. Give me Talbot in a pretty one-sided decision.
Yeah, this is such a weird fight, and yeah, it's hard to have confidence in a guy who's 38 years old, has had tons of. I mean, the guy got injured doing a podcast. That's where he's at in his career, and hasn't won. He last won when the UFC was COVID just hit, and the UFC was like saving us from like madness by the only ones putting on a fights. Like, that's the last time he won a fight. He's still good.
Dominic Cruz, Marlon Moraes, TJ Dillashaw are his last 3 UFC wins.
Yeah, forever ago. And that said, when we've actually seen him fight, as you mentioned, he's done okay. I mean, he took a round from Arab, which not many people can say. But you said it right. He's a small bantamweight, and bantamweight just keeps getting bigger. And that's like just better weight cutting, better technology. Like, guys are just bigger now. He doesn't really move anymore, so he doesn't really use his athleticism and speed. He is a good boxer. He has that bladed stance. His hands are still pretty fast. He sets up his shots with feints. He has a good right hand. He has power. His power actually has gone with him up to bantamweight. He throws a lot of calf kicks. He does keep his chin too high for my liking. He's obviously a great wrestler. Like, I know I've talked about his Olympic wrestling talk, and I've said it like that guy was an Olympic champion 17 years ago. Like, he couldn't win a match at RAF right now. He isn't close to the level of wrestling. I mean, he couldn't score a point on Spencer Lee right now. But for MMA, he's still a good wrestler. He still has good entries. He's got his high crotch is where is at that, and the his chest to chest inside trips. And he's still super strong. Like, he gets a leg, he can send you flying. He's good at winning scrambles. I mean, he took Aljamain Sterling down 3 times. He actually took Merab down twice. So the problem is he can't really explode through the hips anymore, and his takedown defense isn't perfect. Aljamain Sterling took him down 4 times. Merab took him down a bunch. He loves to clinch because he likes that inside trip. and his cardio has dipped though. He couldn't handle the pace of Merab, but in fairness, nobody can. But he was breathing really hard, and he's slowed down in the other fights too. Peyton Thomas, I mean, he's a tremendous athlete. His output is insane on the feet. I mean, I've said it before, he's like the striking version of Merab. He's just constantly taking every inch his opponent gives him. When they back up, I mean, he's got the cardio just full sprint 15 minutes. He's mentally strong too. Like he when things are going bad early in the fight, he gets his opportunities. He's on the gas. He's like, and that crumbles guys. I mean, I know they're different weight classes, but if him and Terrance McKinney was in the same weight, I couldn't imagine what he would do to Terrance McKinney with that style. He's got quick hands. His striking is accurate. He lands big combination. He throws hard, tight hooks. He has power, but it isn't the one punch KO power. I mean, though he has done that, it's still more like cumulative. And he's starting to come into his power here, so we could start seeing a lot more starching. I like his stepping knees to the body. I like his teep kicks. He loves spinning wheel kicks. He gets hit a lot, and that's because he's willing to eat a shot to land some of his own. He's also very heavy on his front foot, so he's opening calf kicks. He's not much of an offensive wrestler. He's a bad defensive wrestler, though. I mean, he was throwing big shots and just walking right into takedowns by Hani Basalos. Even like Felipe Lima took him down 3 times. He struggled to get off the bottom against Hani Basalos. Some of that has to do with how good Hani Basalos is. But to his credit, he showed really good submission defense against Basalos. And he has the cardio to go insanely hard. So I do think there's an avenue for victory for Sudo, and that's if he wrestles. And I think he will try. And I think he might get some takedowns. He might even like keep Talbot down the whole first round. But when they're on the feet, Talbot's going to be on the gas. He's going to be overwhelmed. If he could stop 1 or 2 takedowns, that's when he's going to start just killing Cejudo with volume. And I think it just gets him. I say Cejudo's done. I know he hasn't looked terrible in his last 3 fights. I think this is one that he shows that he's old. Give me Talbot. I see Talbot finishes him. Give me Talbot by 3rd round TKO.
Third from the top on the UFC 323 main card is a men's flyweight clash between former champ Brandon Moreno and rising prospect Tatsuro Taira. Moreno, the 31-year-old Mexican, is 23-8-2 overall. He is 12-5-2 in the UFC. He is on a 2-fight win streak, dating back almost exactly a year. He's already fought once this year. It was back in March in the headliner of UFC on ESPN 64, where he picked up a unanimous decision over Steve Erceg. He will look to make it 3 in a row here, perhaps reinsert himself into the title picture somehow against Taira. Taira, 25-year-old from Okinawa, is 17-1 overall. He is 7-1 in the UFC. Kind of like Talbot that we just finished talking about. He is coming in off a win in which he bounced back from his first career loss. He fought back in August in the headliner of UFC on ESPN 71, where he frankly kind of dominated short notice opponent Hyun Sung Park on his way to tapping him out with a neck crank early in the 2nd round. That allowed him to bounce back from his split decision loss to Brandon Royval in the headliner of UFC Fight Night 244 last October. Keith, the favorite is -140, the underdog plus 110. Who are they?
Wow. I don't know who the favorite is, but 140, I think that's too much. I know that's a close fight, but man. Moreno's the favorite?
It's actually Taira. Tatsuro Taira, -140. Brandon Moreno, plus 110. I'm going to go ahead and flip this one to you. I mean, this is a sensational matchup. And one thing I will put in.
Please don't.
I love that the UFC is doing this over the last couple of years, like just booking a high-level contenders fight on the same card as a title fight, where if something were to happen to Pantoja or Van, they have options to bring in as a late notice replacement that's already been training to fight on this card. Like, it really bugged me up until a couple of years ago when the UFC would just kind of have another contender on standby, make weight. And the one that always sticks out to me is when they had Kamaru Usman weigh in to back up the Tyron Woodley Darren Till fight. Because I'm like, of all the people, you pick this titanic guy with a huge weight cut that has trouble making it to the cage twice a year anyway, and basically have him plan on making a weight cut for no reason. Like, I much prefer this kind of thing here. Like, obviously, best outcome would still be if all four of these guys made it to the cage and we got some clarity in the title picture. But this just feels much better than having either Moreno or Tyra just on deck, weighing in as a backup.
Especially, I mean, Tyra is going to make championship weight because, I mean, based on, they say something happened to Van. Tyra would be the one to get the call because we've seen Pantoja and Moreno.
Pantoja Moreno 17 doesn't appeal to. Yeah.
It's weird because I'm sitting there and I'm like, who does the UFC want to win? But I'm like, with Pantoja, the champion has to be Tyra, even though Moreno is so marketable. He's such a fan favorite. And he's, but I'm like, it still has to be just because Pantoja. Now, if Van wins, I know it's afterwards, but I think Moreno would be the fight that they would want. But
dude, if something were to happen to Pantoja and we end up with Moreno versus Van on Saturday, oh, dude, please hose me off. It's like,
I mean, honestly, I mean, the one fight you don't want is Pantoja versus Moreno, but you throw Tyra in there too. Like, that's a tremendous fight. This fight is a good one. Moreno. Obviously, he's a well-rounded fighter. He's a good boxer. He moves well. He uses movement against Brandon Royval to kind of get him chase him, and then he'd counter. He's got quick hands. He's got a great jab. I mean, I've said this before about him. His jab is kind of the centerpiece of his game. He's good at throwing a short right over his opponent's own jab. His lead left is really good. He's good at like dipping and then throwing either a left jab or a left hook or a short left uppercut. We saw that against Urseg. It's like he dips and then he like counters with this beautiful left, and he throws it from all different angles. He mixes his jab and his power punches together really well. He generates good power because he sits on his punches, and he also lines his shots up well with winning the foot battle. He's way more technical than he gets credited with. He loves catching a kick and countering with that left hook. He mixes his high strikes and the low strikes together well. He'll go high, and then he'll throw a kick, or he'll go to the body. And he mixed up his speed and his rhythm well. So it's not the same attack. His volume has dipped a little bit as he's gotten a little old. And I know obviously he's not old, but like since he was the champion, I mean, the Verena Royval, the fight is the one that bothered me. I mean, his output is probably if he's throwing way too many single strikes, probably the reason why he lost that fight. He's an underrated kicker. He's got a great high kick. He has very like Robert Whittaker, dip to one side, throw a high kick on the other side style. He slips his left and then throws the right kick, throws a right kick counter, which is fun to see. He crushed Kai Kara France with a body kick. He's a good defensive striker. He moves his head well on the center line. Has a like very bob and weave style. Though he'll also throw some like Bernard Hopkins shoulder rolls. In the fight, and the one fight that always keeps bothering me is that last fight against Brandon Royval, because he was turtling a lot, which I don't like. We don't see him do, but he was slipping punches much better against Steve Urseg. So he doesn't check leg kicks. I mean, go back to like Figueiredo. Figueiredo has success kicking his legs. He also wasn't throwing much kicks against Steve Urseg, which is surprising because that's been such a big part of his game. He has taken so much damage over career. That's obviously concerning. He's a solid wrestler, very opportunistic. He won rounds against Figueiredo due to timely takedowns. He has, and then obviously I keep bringing up Figueiredo fight. Well, when you've fought each other 72 times, it's kind of hard not to keep mentioning it. But he's got quick entries. He cuts the corner really well. Like I said, he took Figueiredo on all four of the fights. He wasn't wrestling Steve Urseg though, which is surprising. But if he does wrestle, he's good at winning scrambles. If he's taken down, he's very hard to hold down. They're like Granby rolls to get out, which I love. He's got some slick back takes. He has a submission threat. He subbed Figueiredo in that second fight, which is a really good accomplishment. And he's already shown that he's very hard to submit. We saw that against when he went against Pantoja in their last fight. Tyra is a huge flyweight. The guy looks like a featherweight out there. He's a good athlete. He moves really well, very fluid and controlled. He works from range due to his length. He's a good striker, good at picking up his opponent's timing, quick hands, throws straight shots down the pike. He's got a great straight right, good uppercuts if you crash the pocket on him inside. I'd say he has plus power, good kicking game, kicks to all areas of the body. His defense isn't the best. He does stand a little too tall, but he threatens with takedowns. And that's what opens up his striking so much that he lands. So he's because if he gets the fight down, he's really good there. He's got a good Muay Thai clinch due to his size. Quick entries from the top. He has a good top game. Likes to inch position by like inch a little bit on the ground instead of rushing to get to things. But he's got some super slick back takes. I goes back to like the Alex Perez fight. He takes it back. Super impressive how he did it. He's a big submission threat. He's got 8 submission wins. He chains submission together, and if taken down, he's shown to be hard to hold down. This is a really fun fight. I flip flop. That's what I'm saying. I think the line should be much closer. I'm gonna go with the favorite. I'm gonna go with the new blood. I'm gonna go with Tyra. And I don't feel good about that pick. But the reason I want to pick him is I'm worried that Marino might just look to box like he did against Usyk. Or like he did against, or his output won't be out there like it was against Royval. No kicking, no wrestling. That stuff worries me. I say Tyra lands the hardest shots on the feet. I think he actually might get a takedown or two. Maybe has some moments where he's back taking Moreno. I think we have a war. I think we have a really good fight. I'm going to say Tyra gets the biggest win of his career. I'm going to say he wins by split decision.
Yeah, I went back and rewatched Royval versus Tyra in preparation for talking about this fight. And I don't know how I so quickly started misremembering a fight that happened barely a year ago. Because you know what we do. We talk about fights 43 weekends a year. By the time the fights are happening on Saturday, part of my brain and part of your brain is already thinking about next week's fights. Sort of plotting
already
out
now.
Already now. And so, you know, within a month or two of the Royval versus Tyra fight, I just kind of filed it away as in, yeah, you know, Tyra kind of got exposed, you know, had a lot to take back to the drawing board. And I went back and watched it. And I'm like, one, this was a great fight. It was one of the best fights that year. Two, it was a very close fight. Like Royval won by a split decision. He won righteously. Just about everybody I know thought Royval won rounds 1, 3, and 5. And maybe the taste I took away from that was just because of a couple of real memorable moments, like Royval slamming Tyra late, a couple of individual big shots he landed, like a couple times when Royval out-scrambled Tyra in transition and had him in peril, just things we had never seen happen to Tatsuro Taira that in my mind made me think, oh yeah, like Royval really put the screws to him. No, he didn't. Royval was like a top 3 fighter, and Tyra gave him a hell of a fight. And then Tyra kind of reminded us who he was by just wrecking Yunsung Park over the summer. I like the way you put it, just saying you're going with the new blood, because you pointed out a couple of kind of interesting game plan / fight IQ displays we've seen from Moreno over the last 2 years, from a guy that's normally as well-rounded and smart as they come. And I'm glad you mentioned it, because I was kind of wondering whether some of those things were down to poor game planning or lapses in fight IQ, or just down to him covering for things that he has trouble doing physically anymore. He has a ton of cage time and had, as you pointed out, has taken a ton of damage for a guy that doesn't even turn 32 until the day after the fights. He turns 32 next Sunday. I mean, good grief. He has 2 hours of cage time since the beginning of 2023, like in the last 2 calendar years. Terrance McKinney has 32 minutes of cage time in his entire UFC run. 32 minutes of cage time. And yeah, Brandon Moreno has 2 hours of cage time in the last 2 years. I'm with you. I'm going with Tyra here. Moreno has tons of avenues to victory. I think especially if he at least establishes the threat of his wrestling, he should get the better of the striking exchanges on the feet. I think he can deny Taira the kind of outside range that he wants, make him uncomfortable, probably outland him, hit harder. But if Taira is not at all concerned whether Moreno's going to take him down, if Moreno isn't kicking him, isn't kicking his legs, if he lets Taira kind of lead the dance on the feet, everything sort of starts to favor Taira. Like Taira at that point probably kind of holds his own on the feet. If he's the one deciding when, where, and whether the fight goes to the ground, that makes a huge difference. Like Taira is a very scrambly, funky type ground fighter, but no matter how scrambly and funky you are in modern MMA, you do better on the ground if you're the one scoring the takedown, starting from on top. To all of you in the comment section, unless it's Charles Oliveira. Yes, we get it. Yeah, give me Taira by decision as well. I have the feeling it's going to be a fantastic fight. But yeah, Taira takes that last step, and he can pretty reasonably call for a title shot if he gets past Moreno in uncontroversial fashion. That brings us to the co-main event of UFC 323, a men's flyweight title fight between your defending champ, Alexandre Pantoja, and red-hot rising challenger, Josh Van. Pantoja, the 35-year-old Brazilian, is 30-5 overall. He's 14-3 in the UFC. He is, of course, your reigning champ, and he is on an 8-fight win streak dating back at this point over 5 full years. He's already fought once this year. It was back in June at UFC 317, where he choked out Kai Kara-France in the 3rd round. He will look to make it 9 in a row. Establish himself as the most dominant champ since Demetrius Johnson, at least, against Van. 24-year-old from Burma, or from Myanmar, by way of Houston, 15-2 overall, 8-1 in the UFC. He is on a 5-fight win streak since his, frankly, shocking 3rd-round KO loss to Charles Johnson last summer. Since losing to Charles Johnson, what is that, 14 months ago, he has 5 wins. Edgar Jairez, Cody Durden, Ray Saruya, Bruno Silva, and in his most recent outing at UFC 317 back in June, Brandon Royval, whom he defeated via unanimous decision in a 3-round fight. Here he is, one of the younger title challengers in recent memory. He is not favored to get it done. Pantoja is your favorite. Keith, what number do you think the line starts with?
2.
You are correct. Alexandre Pantoja, minus 240. Josh Van, plus 190.
Damn.
Here's the thing, and this is the thing that I've said about flyweight for at least the entire time you and I have been doing this show together. Demetrius Johnson's utter dominance kind of spoiled us / gave us a misleading idea of how easy it is to sit atop this division.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't help that after Demetrius Johnson lost the title, moved on to one championship, pretty much everybody left in his wake was well-rounded, athletic, well-conditioned, but super, super aggressive. Like I can't think of another division that had a top 5 as recklessly aggressive as men's flyweight did in about 2019, 2020. Just between Pantoja, Royval, Alex Perez, Brandon Moreno, Kai Kara-France. It's all guys that any of them probably could have beaten any of the others. Matt Schnell, any of them could have beaten any of the others on any given Saturday, which is fantastic. I mean, how often are you going to have a 4-time rivalry where nobody's really complaining about it except the other contenders in the division?
Sure.
Yeah, it was fantastic, but
it was a great rivalry.
It was a great rivalry, but that makes it so wild that Alexandre Pantoja has won 8 straight fights.
Dude, so good.
He's so good, and what sort of allowed him to rise to the top out of just this chaotic washing machine of a division is he's gotten more measured on the ground. Like when the Matt Schnells and Brandon Royvals of the world just get into the Looney Tunes cloud of dust scramble with him, he makes him pay for it now. Underrated wrestler, great grappler, physically strong as an ox. He's a very good striker, but most of his opponents have success in moments against him.
Sure.
And that's what's concerning here, because as good as the fighters he's beaten on this 8-fight streak are, except for Manel Kopp, which at this point is almost 5 full years ago, none of them hit like Van does. Like that's it.
Yeah, and Kopp is a different style. That's right. Yeah. He's an explosive power, while Van is this tactical speed boxer.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I was going with this. If you fight 5 rounds with Manel Kopp, you're going to have to watch out for about 15 techniques that will kill you if you're not paying attention. When you're fighting Josh Van, he's coming forward and just throwing bread and butter boxing combinations, and it's just like he has rolls of quarters in his gloves for all of them. Like if you let him hit you with a 3-piece, your bell is rung and you're on your back foot and you're in trouble. And the thing that's kind of helped Van turn the corner is he no longer waits until the middle of the second round to start doing that. I understand why Pantoja is the favorite. I'll be interested to see what happens to the line during the week, but for a guy that's a 2.5 to 1 favorite, Pantoja actually needs to follow a pretty disciplined game plan if he wants to beat Van. I think he needs to establish his wrestling early and get Van on the ground. If he hangs out on the feet, like he does with a lot of his opponents, I think he's going to be in trouble. And that's what I'm leaning here. I think we're going to have an upset. Ironically, considering what a booster I normally am of Houston area fighters, I was slower to get on the Van train than you were. As great a prospect as I thought he was, I was like, maybe this is a little too early. He still has had moments here on the local scene where he's gotten out wrestled by people that just aren't that good. He's let people hang around that aren't that good. He's a slow starter, and just aside from one huge punch that he ate from Charles Johnson, it hasn't really mattered. Like, he's learned on the job and stayed and kept his record pretty clean in the process. Like, there are fighters that arrive to the UFC not really ready for prime time, and they open their UFC run 3-4, 3-5. Looks like they might get cut before really turning the corner. Van never had to do any of that. Like, he's already really starting to click now, and I think this is his moment. Give me Van in the upset. As good as Pantoja is, as tough as Pantoja is, fundamentally sound, and the fact that even at 35, he hasn't really shown any serious signs of slippage. I'm thinking this thing goes all 5 rounds, but give me Van to win 3 rounds out of 5 by hurting Pantoja visibly and severely in the rounds that he wins. I think this might be a thing where it's 48-47, but it feels like Van really kind of put it to Pantoja, because Pantoja won close rounds and Van won nasty rounds. But yep, and new.
This fight to me is the main event. Like, I love this fight. It's dude, this fight's so freaking good.
It's so good.
And I'm so high on both guys. Pantoja, he's a well-rounded fighter. I say this time and time again about this guy. He does not get enough credit for his striking. He's a way better striker than people think he is. And a lot of it has to do because his ground game is so amazing that it kind of overshadows. But great output on the feet, fast hands. He likes to rush in the pocket and load big shots. Good at mixing up his speed of attacks. I've described before, like the way he comes in. We saw it in his last fight. He's like a softball pitcher or a baseball pitcher. He like throws a fastball, he throws a changeup, and he gets inside and he lands big shots. The dude loves to brawl, and that's because he can eat big shots, and he has a legendary chin. and he needs it because he's willing to eat a shot to land one of his own because he has power. He's hurt so many guys. And then he gets you to open up and have moments where he loves the chaos where you're throwing hard back at him, and that's when he's ducking under you and he's taking you down. If you block up at his head, he's on your hips. He also doesn't get enough credit for how good of a wrestler he is.
Oh goodness.
He takes everybody down. He gets to the hips, he cuts the angle so well. He gets body lock takedowns. I mean, he hit Kai Asakura with a freaking slick foot sweep. And if he gets the fight to the ground, he is as good of a grappler. He's in the club. Like when I think of grapplers and I think of submission artists and all that, he's not the first guy I think of, but I should. Like, I think of Charles Oliveira and Damian Maia and Pantoja's right there. I mean, he smothers guys on the ground. Great back take. He may be the best back taker in all respect to Sean Brady. He's up there. He can take you back, and I mean, when's the last time it was a fight that Pantoja didn't have somebody's back? Like, unless he knocks you out real quick. It's like he's got to have Josh Van's back at some point of this fight, probably pretty early. He's a massive submission artist. He's got 12 submissions on his win. I mean, he crushed Alex Perez with a neck crank. He can get subs off of his back. He has a wide variety of subs. He's hit arm bars and guillotines and heel hooks. If you take him down, he's shown he's very hard to hold down. Though he will play some BJJ off his back and setting it up sometimes, but he'll hit sweeps. And he showed he has the cardio and the experience to go all 25 minutes. He fights a slower pace than he did when he was on his rise up to the title. But I think that has because he became a more intelligent fighter, as you mentioned. And I've said this before, he looks more tired than he is. But he's so intelligent. If he goes out and he wins the first round, wins the second round really convincing, where he's got 2 or maybe 3 rounds in the bag, he'll take a round off and really slow down and come to a snail's pace because he's going to make that late surge. And I think that's smart. He did.
It's something that good boxers do, but only great mixed martial artists do.
Yeah. Yeah. But you have to have those rounds.
Yeah.
And he did against Ursig, against Royval, he did against Moreno. And then he'll get to a position where instead of being busy, he can rest on top, but he does just enough that he doesn't get stood back up. Josh Van, I mean, the dude's only 24 years old. He isn't even in his prime. He's at the age where he can make massive jumps and improve. You said that when he was in Houston, he had big holes and things he needed to fix. Well, he's the perfect example when I say a guy make a big improvement fight to fight. Just look at Josh Van and you'll see it. Like he looks like a completely different fighter every time he comes out. And it's just like, he reminds me of like the Mairon brothers where they can like just jump on like this pad and that pad just so easily. And like, that's what he's doing. Like he's unbelievable. I've said it before. He reminds me of a young Max Holloway. The way he fights, the road that he went on, that he first came to UFC and he showed some talent, but he's an awesome athlete. He is a slow start, a little similar to Max Holloway. But he has been starting a little faster recently. And it is concerning to be a slow starter because Pantoja is historically fast starter. So that's like a double thing he has going against him. But he's a builder. Once he finds his rage, his volume increases. He just marches down his foe. He's one of the best boxers in the UFC and probably the best boxer in the flyweight division. He's technically sound. He sets up his shots well with feints. He cuts angles so well. He's got quick hands. He's accurate. He has a tremendous jab. He likes to double it up. He has great movement where with his head, he just slips out of range and he's right back in with his own counters. He has good power. I mean, knocked out Bruno Silva. He busted up Brandon Royval in that fight. Brandon Royval was a bloody mess in that fight. And he isn't really in his power years yet. I love the body work he does. I mean, he destroyed Kevin Bojas with some of the best body punch. Obviously, he also did it to Felipe Boons and Charles Johnson, but especially that Bojas fight. good kicking game, nice teep kicks. He will throw some naked ones, so that'll even be open to counter. And you definitely want to throw a naked kick at Pantoja because he'll catch it. And he needs to check leg kicks himself. But like I said, like he's at the age where he can make improvements. We could see him checking leg kicks this fight because that's an improvement he saw and he needed to make. I love his stepping knees. He's a good wrestler, good entries, has a strong takedown defense. He's shown incredible takedown defense against Cody Durnan, against what's his name? Soraya, whatever his
Ray Soraya, yeah.
Yeah, Ray Soraya, Brunno Silva. If he gets taken down, he pops right back up. If he's on top, he's got good ground and pound. His only big weakness is he isn't much of a submission artist. He only has 2 subs on his record, and I don't think when I say he can make big jumps in improvement, I don't think submitting Pantoja is good. I don't think he's only going to be a submission artist against Pantoja. But and another thing is he's 24. He's taken a lot of damage. That is worrisome for me. I mean, Edgar Torres hurt him. Obviously, Charles Johnson knocked him out. Brunno had an all-time war, one of the best fights. I mean, that's gonna be the fight of the year, right? I mean, I just off the top of my head. And then his cardio is off the charts. He didn't stop working. So I love this fight, but I also hate this fight. It's one of the best fights of the year. I love both guys. These are 2 of my favorite fighters. 2 guys that I've been backing for a long time. I picked Pantoja to win the title when a lot of people weren't. I think you did too. Didn't you pick Pantoja too?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we were very, very few people doing that. Pantoja, I don't think just Pantoja underrated. I think he's underrated in his all-time legacy. I also think he's underrated in the current pound-for-pound rankings. But Van is the guy that I was on the bandwagon before anybody.
Oh yeah.
I think I might be a little too early on Van. I could see them rematching like 18 months from now and Van winning. Van is the only person that I've made this statement about. Only one of only 2 people that I made a statement where, in John Jones was the first one, where I said on the Sherdog radio network that he will win the UFC title, and Josh Van is the second person I said to do that. I think they rematch like 18 months from now, but I don't think Van is winning the title 18 months from now. I think he's defending the title 18 months from now. This might be too early for Van, but I ain't backing down. I said he's going to win the UFC title, and I say he does it on Saturday. The deeper the fight goes, the more I like his chances. I think Pantoja wins the early battles. I think it's going to start off bad for Van. I think he might get his back tuck, and we're going to have, this is Pantoja. But I think I keep going back to Van's body work. I think the body work might slow Pantoja down. I think by the 3rd, Van is basically in a full sprint, landing big combos similar to what we saw in the Royval. I think Pantoja is going to get really busted up. I think it's going to be an all-timer. And eventually, I think he crumbles. I think Van's going to finish him with body shots in the 5th round. Give me Van by 5th round TKO and to win the UFC title.
With that, we come to the main event of UFC 323. 5 scheduled rounds for the men's bantamweight title between your defending champ, Merab Dvalishvili, and a familiar face in the form of former champ, Petr Yan. Merab, the 34-year-old Georgian by way of Long Island, is 21-4 overall. He is 14-2 in the UFC. After losing his first 2 fights in the octagon, both in questionable / controversial fashion, he has rattled off 14 straight wins. He is about to be the first fighter in UFC history to defend a title 4 times in 1 year. He has already fought this year Umar Nurmagomedov in January, Sean O'Malley in June, and Corey Sandhagen at UFC 320 in October, whom he defeated via pretty one-sided unanimous decision. So Merab looking to make a little history here. He will need to get past Yan in order to do so. 32-year-old from Siberia is 19-5 overall. He's 11-4 in the UFC. Since losing to Dvalishvili in their first meeting back in March of 2023, he has rattled off 3 straight wins over Song Yadong, Davison Figueiredo, and Marcus McGee. The most recent of those, the McGee fight, was back in July at UFC on ABC, Whitaker versus DeRitter. Perhaps, given Dvalishvili's position as one of the 2 or 3 most dominant fighters in the entire sport, it should not be surprising that he is a comfortable favorite here. Keith, would you care to guess what number the line starts with?
4.
You are correct. Keith nails it again. Merab Dvalishvili minus 450, Petr Yan plus 325. Wow. And you know what? I'm not even mad at it because Merab, with the exception of Jan Blachowicz, whom we talked about a little earlier, is possibly the most disrespected champ on the lines in modern UFC history. Like, I didn't mention it when we were talking about Blachowicz, but in the 10 fights leading up to him losing the title to Glover Teixeira, he was the betting underdog in 9 of those 10 fights. And that's him going 9-1 and winning the title.
Yeah, that's it. Was he an underdog to O'Malley in the first fight? Which was like...
Oh, are we talking about Merab? No, you ready for this? In the last 2 years, so we're talking about after Merab's already on an 8-fight win streak and probably already overdue for a title shot. In just his last 6 fights, last 7 fights, he opened up as an underdog to Jose Aldo. Like, he was a slight favorite by the time they...
Sure.
He was like... Petr Yan was like minus 250 the first time they fought.
Stupid.
He was almost a 3-1 underdog to Umar Nurmagomedov. This is after he'd won 11 fights in a row and was the champ.
I understand Umar being a favorite, but that big is stupid.
It's just wild.
But I remember the O'Malley fight.
Yeah, he was an underdog to O'Malley the first time around.
Everybody who's like, watch fights be like, that's a terrible stylistic matchup for O'Malley. How is O'Malley the favorite? Like, I'm not a better, but if I was, I'd be like, that's probably the biggest bet I would have made.
Yeah. It seemed really, really screamingly obvious. Maybe the betting public and the bookmakers have finally caught up with that because, Dvalishvili is a prohibitive favorite here, minus 450, Yan plus 325. Keith, I asked you off the top during the intro, are the right challengers in these 2 fights? And you said with a bit of qualification, yes. And in the case of this headliner, it's because Merab took so long to get to a title shot that he's already beaten just about everybody else, a lot of them twice. Tell me what you think happens here. How's the fight play out? If you think anything will look different from the first fight, let us know what and why.
Yeah, so I do like you said, I understand like why Merab is the betting favorite, and I understand that, what you have to settle the line for people to put money on Yan. I understand it's not just necessarily like the overall chance of them winning, more about forcing people to bet on it. I hate the line being that big because of how, it's still a top 5 guy in the world, Yan. Like, the guy's really good. So that's one thing I hate. And we've seen rematches and guy making adjustment and the second guy wins, and even fights that. And also, I hate the line being that big because we've seen upsets. We've seen when you look on it like, oh, there's no way this guy's good. And I always think TJ Dillashaw when he beat when he won the title. Hedin Barrow, yeah. And there's more to why Hedin Barrow. I think there's more to why Hedin Barrow fell off, but still. But we've seen these over and over again, and Frank Yeager beating BJ Penn and Ben beating him the second time, and all these, So that's why I think the odds shouldn't be that big. Now, as far as they're breaking down their skills, I'm going to start, and I've been doing this. I don't know how many fights in a row. I'm going to continue to do this. I'm going to continue to keep saying this until he loses clean. Merab should be undefeated in the UFC. Everyone talks about who the best striker is, and you have these lists and who's the best wrestler and who's the best boxer. Merab wins the category for greatest cardio. It's not even a debate. He goes insanely hard for all 25 minutes, and he does it with wrestling, which is the most tiring thing you can do. He's on the gas the entire bout, constantly moving forward, pushing his opponent onto the back foot. And the crazy thing is, it's not that he just does this 25 minutes of hard output in wrestling and then wins because he has a deep gas tank, but he's slowed down. He doesn't even slow down. That's the crazy thing. His cardio
and he's like smiling and laughing and having fun. It's like watching the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah. It's like yeah, it'd be like watching like the Boston Marathon, and yeah, I understand the skinny track guy from Ethiopia,
Kenya, yeah.
Kenya or something. It was going to win, and he's going to be running. You're like, holy crap, how fast he is! But he's not. And it almost looks like he's sprinting. No, Rob's like full sprinting and like laughing. Like the guy crosses the Boston Marathon or the New York Marathon or something, and like he wins, but he puts every single thing he has into it, and he almost passes out when he hits the.
Yeah.
Like Rob's just like, I'm gonna do like another marathon afterwards. Yeah. Like he's like, imagine if that marathon one like didn't hit the finish line and stopped, just kept running.
Yeah. Because I moonwalked the last mile because nobody was catching up to me anyway. Like, yeah.
He is a very underrated striker. We've said this before. He lands a lot because guys are worried about his takedowns, and as they should be. But he has cleaned up his striking. He throws a lot more straight shots than loading up on every shot like when he first came in the UFC, and he showed improved power. I mean, he hurt Corey Sandhagen on the feet in their fight. He doesn't care about being countered because he trusts his chin, and he's willing to take the chance that he'll land the bigger shot, or you'll give him the chance to take you down. He still keeps his chin too high. O'Malley, despite being beat easily in the first fight, did hurt Merab briefly to the body, which might be the way to beat him. That said, I know I'm just throwing stuff on the wall, see what sticks. He also throws punches to force opponents back and to bring their hands up, and he'll do some spinning back fists to do that. He kicks a lot because he doesn't care if you catch a kick. He wants you to scramble, and if you want to be stupid enough to try to take him down, and like that's really stupid. He had a lot of success against Jan in the first fight by kicking his calves. All his striking is to set a pace and get his opponents, willing to try to fight at his pace, and then also give him openings for his wrestling. His entries are good, but they are not as close to the best in the UFC. If you tell me who's the best wrestler in the UFC, yes, I know he has the record for most takedowns. It's not him. No. He just keeps shooting until he gets his opponents down, and he's so mentally strong. He's going to get the takedowns. I mean, the perfect example of that is the Umar and the Magomedov fight. The wrestling was pretty even, or even Umar was winning it. Mm-hmm. But Merab had the style, and then by the second, third, fourth round, he started taking it on easily.
Let me throw out another statistical thing. Sure. In the first Jan fight, Merab set the UFC record for most failed takedowns. Yeah. But do you think Jan felt good about that at the end? No. Do you think he took that almost like a consolation prize? He's like, no, that sucked. He tried 46 takedowns on me. So what if he only landed 12? He won every round. It sucked.
Yeah. He shot him 49 times. That's just insane. Yeah. I mean, shit. An NCAA heavyweight wrestler won't shoot 49 times in a season. So, I mean, he'll shoot just to get his opponents tired. He's going to take everyone down, and as the fight drags along, it gets easier and easier for him. He chains attacks together well. He'll shoot a double and then quickly hit a single. One of my favorite things he does, he circles one way with a single, and then he hits a misdirection, which is one of my favorite techniques. Actually, it's one of my son's wrestling teams. Like we practiced it yesterday, and it's one of our like staples for our team. And my son did it multiple. It's like his best move. He did it multiple times today. So I love that Merab does the same thing. He likes foot sweeps. It's added to his game. He doesn't have smothering top control, but I've said this before, in a weird way, that almost helps him. He doesn't get tired taking his opponents down, and his opponents will spend so much energy trying to get back up just to be taken down again. So, like, by not keeping them down is actually somehow made it better for him. He showed great takedown defense, Umar Nurmagomedov. He showed a great get-up game when Umar took him down, and then he showed submission skills against O'Malley. Jan's a great boxer. He flows back and forth between stances. His output has been inconsistent. It's great one fight, and his trigger shot the other ones. But he has picked up his volume recently, and he's been marching down his opponents, and he picks up the pace as the fight goes on. He's obviously a great boxer. He's got fast hands. He's got a good jab. He likes to meet his opponent's jab with one of his own. The best part of his game, I said, that's so different for him, but other people, he won't just throw at his opponents. He throws to spots. He throws, like, if you have you trapped for a second, he'll throw to your escape spots, which is awesome. He has a great slip uppercut, which nobody else does. He's got good power. His defense does bother me. He has a very boxing turtle style, which sets him up for his legs to be kicked and also be takedowns. And we've seen him hurt for such a good boxer. We've seen him hurt a lot. I mean, Sean O'Malley hurt him a lot. So, I mean, I know people debate who won that fight, but Sean O'Malley did hurt him a lot. Like, that can't be ignored. He can sneak in a takedown. He's a way better offensive wrestler than he gets credit with. He likes to catch kicks and then land some sweeps. He also like to in a combination, he'll throw a combination, get his opponents to bring their hands up, and then he steps behind them and pushes them over this little sweep thing he does, which is pretty nasty. He will close the distance and look for some body locks. He can shoot from takedowns from distance, but he's more of a scramble wrestler. He does struggle stopping takedowns from higher level wrestlers. I mean, even way back against that's how he lost to Magomedov. The rematch against Aljamain Sterling happened because he lost that one because we kept getting taken down. He was even Song Yadong when he was just fainting takedowns on him. He was over reacting to it. He was down blocking everywhere when Song Yadong didn't really even commit to the takedowns. And then obviously the first fight against Merab was a disaster. He stopped a lot of takedowns, but Merab was just relentless. And he did show a good ability to get back up. He looks for Grammys and stuff, which is fun, but he's got to get taken back down. So I like Jan. I like Jan. I think he's looked great lately. I just haven't seen anything to make me think he has made huge improvements since the first fight. And since I actually think the first fight, I think Merab has made improvements. So you were better than him. How long ago they fought. And since then, one guy I believe is even better, and that's Merab. So I think he's just widening the gap between the two of them. I think Jan might win a round because he's really good, but Merab just sets an insane pace on him. He lands way more on the feet than you think. I think Merab gets takedowns over and over again. He lands shots on top. I see he has a moment where he's talking to somebody in the crowd and he's just clowning on him, and Jan is just helpless. Give me Merab by unanimous decision.
Yeah, I feel bad approaching this fight from this direction. It feels disrespectful to Petr Yan, the guy that's actually going to be across from him in the cage on Saturday. But you know what? We already saw him fight once. And as you basically just said, there's no real reason to believe this fight will be radically different. And if it is different, it's probably going to be more in the direction of Merab. So I'm going to throw this out there. Merab appears to be in his prime. 34, he's probably kind of towards the far end of that bell curve, but I think it's fair to ask, what's it going to look like if someone does beat him in his prime? And the ways that might conceivably happen, again, before he ages to the point that he can't do this anymore, it's either going to be somebody just clocking him with one huge shot, or somebody that kind of beats him for real the way Ricky Simon maybe did, and just snaring him in a great guillotine and just catching him. The problem is that Jan is not well equipped to do either of those things. Jan is a surprisingly good grappler, and he's a great boxer, but
it's sorry to interrupt you. I almost would be less surprised if you caught him in a guillotine than if you knocked him out with one punch.
Oh yeah, no,
which is crazy. Absolutely. You think of Jan as a striker,
and he's a great striker, but Merab still has incredible recoverability. You pointed out that Merab's been caught, stung, hurt, even on this incredible win streak he's on, but nobody's looked seriously in danger of finishing him. And that's having fought everybody, having fought the high volume exotic strikers like O'Malley, the 5 enormous haymakers per fight, John Dodson's. Hell, if somebody was going to beat him, John Dawson probably had the best chance, because if he landed, he was probably he's one of the hardest pound for pound hitters in the history of the sport who just never, ever, ever pulled the trigger. Like that was probably the chance. Like,
yeah, O'Malley had the best chance, and both fights were a disaster. So.
Yeah. So yeah, long story short, I'm with you here. I think this looks a little bit like the first one, only maybe the avalanche starts even sooner, just because Merab's going to be that much more confident right off the bat. Like, he's tasted Jan's power, and he's tested Jan's takedown defense. Like, he shot 49 takedowns on him in their first fight. Like, to get a feel for how insane that is, if you're watching this right now, think of Derek Lewis. He's the UFC's all-time leader in knockouts. He's creeping up to the top of a ton of statistical leaderboards in the heavyweight category. In his entire UFC run, which I think is like almost 30 fights at this point, he's only thrown more than 49 strikes twice.
That's silly.
And we're talking about takedowns.
Dude, Rob is the man.
He is the man. And if you don't like wrestling, yeah, you might think his fights are boring. I like wrestling. I enjoy his fights, and his personality works for me. Like, I've always liked the guys that are a little funny and silly and not concerned with being the toughest, hardest dude all the time. It's why I always loved Ben Askren, because like his trash talk was always just sort of like teasing and silly and childish, instead of just like saying over the line shit about people's like families and their wives and stuff. He's just always like, Ben Askren is the man. Double lung transplant. 1, he's already wrestling in. 2, he's already back on social media talking shit at current fighters. Like what a hero.
He's the man.
And who's he talking shit about? Tom Aspinall, a guy that in his current shape could just take him like a javelin and throw him about 100 yards. So Ben Askren rules. Merab Dvalishvili rules. I think he wins a decision where he really is just rolling downhill by the end. If he gets a late stoppage by submission, just because Jan is that exhausted, that discouraged, that beat up, that wouldn't be a shock. But you know what? Jan has been a very hard guy to finish. He still is a great fighter. So give me Merab by decision. And that is it. The Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC 323. I've been Ben. He has been Keith. If this is your first time watching or listening to one of our previews, first of all, thank you. We hope you enjoyed it. We do our best to bring a mix of in-depth analysis and occasional humorous or historic asides that we think is pretty unique in this space. Please do like, subscribe. None of those things cost you a thing. They make our bosses happy. They allow us to keep bringing you this content free of charge. Please drop us a comment. Keith and I both man the comment section. We'd love to hear your take on these fights. We had a couple of unanimous upset picks. Our batting average on those is pretty damn good, but if you think we left any value on the table, or if you think either of our upset picks are off base, let us know. Because if you're right and we're wrong, we will definitely give you your flowers on the recap. You just need to come collect them. We are live on the Sherdog YouTube page right after the main event. We'll talk about all 14 of these fights in reverse order, from the headliner on down to the shockingly good men's featherweight opener, talking about what was good, what was bad, what was surprising, what was controversial. There's always something, especially this year. We will talk about what's next for some of the notable winners as well as losers, and we'll talk with you. The live chat is open that whole time, so we'll be taking your questions, your comments, and your hot takes in real time. We have a growing community of friends that hang out with us after the fights, and we'd love for you to be part of it. Between now and then, thank you once again for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and by all means, enjoy these fights.